Chapter 5002. Tian-chan and Sydney hesitated for a long time. Finally, they looked at each other and sighed helplessly. Forget it, this time we are not going back with our real bodies. We don't have as many things to worry about in the secular world as you do. Forget it this time, but after you go there, you can go and see the situation of Five Elements Sect and Snow Valley for us. I don't know how they are now. Okay, I'll remember it. Lin Yi nodded. If it was a real transmission, he would definitely find a way to settle down in Tiandan Pavilion and bring the two women with him. But this time, the situation was special. It was just a projection of the soul to see the situation, so it was not necessary. Tian-chan and Sydney had just said a few words to Lin Yi when Wei Shinjin and the others below began to complain. The two women hurriedly went down to help, but were stopped by Lin Yi. Let them work hard for a while. I don't know how long I can stay in the secular world in the form of a soul, so I can't take care of here for the time being. So, I still have to improve the strength of the two of you first, so that no one will come to make trouble. Oh. When the two women heard this, their cheeks immediately blushed. The scene of Lin Yi improving their strength last time was still vivid in their minds. Although they had already given their hearts to Lin Yi, the two women still couldn't help but feel shy and embarrassed at the thought of taking off their clothes. Seeing this, Lin Yi immediately laughed. Obviously, he also thought of that scene. It was definitely a pleasing experience. As for Wei Shinjin, although he had taken the heart-devouring insect, his performance in the past 2 years could be regarded as diligent and loyal. Lin Yi had no plans to directly improve his strength for the time being. It was not entirely because he didn't trust him, but mainly because he felt that it was not necessary. Wei Shinjin was now in the early nascent soul stage. Instead of directly increasing his strength through excessive enthusiasm, it was better to give him some auxiliary medicinal pills such as the Gathering Nascent Soul Golden Pill. In this way, the improvement of his strength would not be too slow, and he would have a better foundation, which would be more beneficial for the future. While Lin Yi was busy making preparations, he was completely unaware that an enemy in the distant East Continent was thinking about him. This person was not Ren Zhongyuan, Xiao Tian, Bao Zuoyang, or Su Kesheng. Instead, it was the heretic cultivator who had fought with him before, the mighty figure of the West Mountain heretic sect. Last time, from Soaring Cloud City to Morningstar City, the mighty figure of Western Mountain had chased Lin Yi all the way. He had even sacrificed one of his arms to use such a vicious and forbidden technique as a blood sacrifice. In the end, he still wasn't able to take down Lin Yi. Instead, he suffered a great loss of vitality. Since then, he hadn't been able to recover even after recuperating for so many months. His strength was greatly reduced, and he was in an extremely miserable state. But even so, the mighty figure of Western Mountain still didn't forget to pay attention to Lin Yi's movements. As a result, he found out that Lin Yi had already left Morningstar City. After that, he didn't know where he went. However, today, in the latest list of Profound Ascending Stage Masters announced by the East Continent Yellow Stage Academy Alliance, he actually found Lin Yi's name. Profound Sheng. This kid actually became Profound Sheng. The mighty figure of Western Mountain was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The little vitality that he had recovered in the past few months was suddenly wasted. The last time they fought, he was in the late Profound Ascending stage, and Lin Yi was only in the late Nascent Soul stage. Even so, he couldn't take Lin Yi's life, and now Lin Yi was already in the early Profound Ascending stage. Not only did the strength of the mighty figure of Western Mountain not improve, but because he lost an arm, his strength was greatly reduced. If they fought again, he would no longer be a match for Lin Yi. After all, the mighty figure of Western Mountain was not stupid. Although he wanted to find Lin Yi for revenge, he was not blindly arrogant. At this time, even if he was given a chance to take revenge, he would definitely not dare to find Lin Yi alone. He was only filled with resentment and unwillingness. No. I can't let that kid go like this. The mighty figure of Western Mountain really couldn't swallow this anger, but he didn't have the strength to take revenge. He was so anxious that he paced around the room for a long time. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. Right, I can't deal with this kid, but someone else can. After making up his mind, the mighty figure of Western Mountain didn't care that his vitality had not recovered. He immediately packed up his things, found a flying spirit beast, and went straight to the South Continent Sea. From the East Continent Yellow Steppe Sea to the South Continent Sea, such a long distance, even for a profound ascension late-stage master like him, it was not easy, especially now that his injury had not recovered. But the mighty figure of Western Mountain couldn't care so much, because the person he was looking for was now in the South Continent Sea, and this person was the Western Mountain Old Master. The main reason why he promised Yi Xiaotian to kill Lin Yi was because of the Western Mountain Old Master. He wanted to take Lin Yi's head to please him. Now, although he didn't have Lin Yi's head, as an evil cultivator, he really had no other choice, so he could only reluctantly give it a try. The whereabouts of the Western Mountain Old Master was not a secret in the Western Mountain evil sect. The mighty figure of Western Mountain quickly found the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. He didn't pay a visit, but directly landed in the backyard. A one-armed freak descended from the sky. This scene immediately startled all the escorts on duty at the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. They hurriedly shouted and surrounded him. However, when they felt the aura released by the mighty Shishan expert, they immediately did not dare to act rashly. It was actually a mysterious ascension late-stage expert. Even if all of them joined forces, they would not be a match for him. The mighty figure of Shishan glanced coldly at the minions and shouted coldly, "I'm the mighty figure of Shishan evil sect. I'm here to seek an audience with Shishan old sect." Evil cultivator? Everyone looked at each other. Although they were used to being ridiculed because of the existence of the Western Mountain Old Master, they still felt strange seeing the mighty figure of Western Mountain at this time. In the future, would the Dragon Boat Escort Agency really become the headquarters of evil cultivators? Why are you still not leaving? At this time, Long Kiba arrived late. He looked up and down the mighty figure of Western Mountain, and respectfully said, "The Western Mountain Old Master invites you, please follow me." Under the guidance of Long Kiba, the mighty figure of Western Mountain soon saw the Western Mountain Old Master in the main hall. He quickly knelt down and respectfully kowtowed. Western Mountain Old Master greets the Western Mountain Old Master. Where are you from? How come I don't seem to have seen you before? The Western Mountain Old Master slanted a pair of triangular yin-yang eyes and looked at the mighty figure of Western Mountain with a strange tone. Reporting to the Old Master, this subordinate is assigned to the Eastern Continent branch. The mighty figure of Western Mountain replied. If that's the case, why don't you stay in the Eastern Continent? Why did you come to the Southern Continent? The Western Mountain Old Master asked curiously. Reporting to the Old Master, this subordinate came to the Southern Continent for only one thing, and that is to become the Old Master's disciple. I sincerely ask the Old Master to grant my wish. The mighty figure of Western Mountain kowtowed again. Chapter 5003. The Almighty was not surprised by West Mountain Elder's reaction. After all, he was the second most powerful person in the South Continent branch of West Mountain Evil Sect. There were a lot of people who wanted to be his disciple. They either had great potential or had a special relationship. Otherwise, why would he accept him as a disciple? Unfortunately, the Almighty could not meet either of these two conditions. If he wanted West Mountain Elder to accept him, the only thing he could do was to play the pity card. I know my limits, but I hope that old sect master will consider my loyalty and give me a chance. I will not disappoint you. Shishan Almighty begged. The West Mountain Elder laughed and asked casually, "What's the matter with your arm? Do you know the blood sacrifice technique?" Elder is wise. I did use the blood sacrifice technique a few months ago. You know the person I killed. He is Lin Yi who killed your nephew, Wu Baoyang. West Mountain Elder nodded. Lin Yi? West Mountain Elder's spirit was lifted. In order to track down Lin Yi, he did not hesitate to use the West Mountain Evil Sect's intelligence system. He knew that Lin Yi was Ling Yi and that Lin Yi went to East Continent from West Island some time ago. He did not expect that he had fought with West Mountain Elder. He was immediately surprised and said, "You killed him? This subordinate is incompetent." Although I was able to deal with him, a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, and did not hesitate to use the great blood sacrifice technique, but in the end, it was all for naught. He escaped into Morningstar City, and now, according to the latest list released by the East Continent's Yellow Step Academy Alliance, he is already a early-stage nascent soul cultivator, Shishan said in shame. West Mountain Elder was speechless when he heard this. But thinking that even he could not kill Lin Yi back then, he really could not blame West Mountain Elder for this. It could only be said that Lin Yi was really evil. Although his strength was not high, he was not that easy to deal with. Old Sect Master, the hatred between this subordinate and Lin Yi's severed arm is absolutely irreconcilable. But now that I've lost an arm, I'm afraid I'm no match for that brat. I beg Elder to give me a chance on account of my sincerity. In the future, I'll definitely hand over Lin Yi's head with both hands. Shishan Almighty begged. At this point, West Mountain Old Master finally changed his mind. Since there was a common enemy, Lin Yi, he would accept it. In any case, the mighty figure of West Mountain was not too weak, and he also knew the great blood sacrifice technique, so he would be of some use. If that's the case, then you can stay. Although losing an arm is a bit of a hindrance, it's just right for you to practice our sect's soul hook hand. Who knows, he might even be able to cultivate faster than someone with both arms. The West Mountain Elder nodded. Thank you, Elder. Hearing this, the mighty figure of West Mountain was overjoyed. He hurriedly kowtowed 3 times. Disciple, West Mountain Almighty, greets Master. This time, he was really overjoyed. In his expectations, it would be good enough if West Mountain Old Master was willing to take him in. Who would have thought that West Mountain Old Master would be willing to teach him the soul hook hand? This was West Mountain Old Master's famous ultimate technique. Alright, get up. West Mountain Old Master waved his hand. Yes. The mighty figure of West Mountain stood up happily. Then, he asked curiously, Master, when Disciple rode over on a flying spirit beast just now, I felt that the South Continent Sea seemed to be very chaotic. Why has the Spirit Beast clan begun to send experts to these human territories? This has nothing to do with us. It doesn't matter what the Spirit Beast clan does, as long as it doesn't affect us. Don't be a busybody, lest you get yourself into trouble. West Mountain Old Master warned. Disciple understands. West Mountain Almighty nodded hurriedly. Anyway, the only thing he had to do now was to quickly improve his strength and take revenge. Everything else was irrelevant to him. He had no intention of being a busybody. Hee. Although this matter has nothing to do with us, since you asked, I'll give you a word of advice. West Mountain Old Master laughed strangely and explained, I've already received news that the Spirit Beast clan is unwilling to be left out this time. This time, the Spirit Beast clan is unwilling to be left out, and they're preparing to incorporate the South Continent Sea into their territory. They're preparing to collect taxes from all the human forces in the South Continent Sea. Now that they've sent so many Spirit Beast experts to the South Continent Sea, it's just the first step in their preparations to collect taxes. But the South Continent Sea has always been the territory of human cultivators. In the past, the Spirit Beast clan has never ruled it, right? Is there no resistance here? West Mountain Almighty asked. In the beginning, there were a few forces who overestimated themselves and wanted to resist, but in front of the Spirit Beast clan, even if all the human forces in the South Continent Sea were united, it would be a piece of cake. Moreover, there was no one who could come forward to unite them, so what could they do? West Mountain Old Master shook his head disdainfully. That's true. Although the South Continent Sea has always been chaotic, there has never been a truly powerful top-notch force. Otherwise, they would have been united long ago. That way, the Spirit Beast clan wouldn't be able to do anything. West Mountain Almighty nodded. This time, the Spirit Beast clan came prepared. They didn't directly send spirit beast experts to attack the South Continent Sea. Instead, they only sent these spirit beast experts to create momentum. The people in the South Continent Sea have long been used to bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Once the spirit beast clan's strength is deeply rooted in the people's hearts, naturally, no one will resist when they start to collect taxes. West Mountain Old Master sneered. Since the spirit beast clan has begun to walk out of the South Island, I'm afraid the South Continent Sea won't be able to satisfy their appetite. Will it affect our West Mountain sect's South Continent branch? West Mountain Almighty could not help but ask. Although the South Continent branch was not in the South Continent Sea, it was not far away. If the Spirit Beast clan wanted to further expand, it was very likely that they would be targeted by them. That won't be the case. Even the Righteous Alliance couldn't do it back then. No matter how powerful the Spirit Beast clan is, can they be more powerful than the Righteous Alliance? West Mountain Old Master chuckled and changed the topic. However, it's better to prepare for a rainy day. With the Spirit Beast clan's aggressive posture, our West Mountain sect should be a little more vigilant. They have now begun to send nominal stewards to various towns in the South Continent Sea. Although they don't care about the human cultivators for the time being, this is already Sima Zhao's intention, and everyone knows it. With you personally in charge, no matter what the Spirit Beast clan does, we won't be moved. West Mountain Almighty took the opportunity to flatter. Although you're flattering me, it's not an exaggeration. Besides, the Spirit Beast clan is different from those hypocrites who call themselves righteous. As long as there's a common interest, they may not be enemies with our West Mountain sect. Maybe there's a chance for us to join forces. West Mountain Old Master said meaningfully. The Secular World, Shenangjia. Chapter 5004. There was a mysterious place that was shrouded in mist all year round. Not only was it uninhabited, but even the most accurate satellites couldn't see through it. All they could see was a blurry silhouette, but no one knew what was inside. There had been research teams that had ventured deep into the hinterland of Shenangjia dozens of times, using all kinds of cutting-edge equipment and even sacrificing several precious lives, but to this day, they were unable to truly explore the whole picture. No one knew what kind of secrets were buried in the depths. In other words, this was one of the few unknown places in the world. However, in the depths of this unknown land, there stood a towering mountain gate. The majestic and solemn buildings blended in with the surrounding primeval forest, without the slightest sense of incongruity. It was as if these buildings were the work of nature itself. From afar, they looked like they were made by nature and connected with each other. Inside the mountain was an empty space, and a group of male and female disciples stood there. At the front was a white-bearded old man who was giving them a lecture. From today onwards, the primordial sect's disciple training that occurs once every 1,000 years will officially begin. All disciples of the primordial sect who meet the requirements must head to the mortal world for training. Remember, none of you are allowed to do anything that violates the laws of the mortal world. If you have nothing to do, do not take the initiative to cause trouble. Those who violate this rule will be severely punished. Yes. The disciples replied in unison. For this experiential learning, we will choose outstanding disciples with spirit roots of at least 2 elements to return to the Shenangjia archaic sect. Everyone only has 1 year's time. Once this time passes, the archaic passage will automatically close, and those who can't return will have to wait for another 1,000 years. Do you all understand? The white-bearded elder said seriously. Yes. The disciples replied again. There were men and women, young and old. If Lin Yi saw this, he'd be very shocked. They were all above Sky Class full mastery. They were all Sky Class masters. Common World, Shueshang District's villa. Counting the days, it had been 3 years since Lin Yi left. Even Ziyu was a third-year student now. Returning to the villa after class, she saw Wu Tian lying on the chair in front of the door, bored out of his mind. Gatekeeper Master Wu. Say, can your life not be so monotonous? I see you lying at the door playing with your phone every time. You're going to become a gatekeeper, Master Wu, if you keep this up. Ziyu couldn't help but complain. Other than playing with my phone, what else can I do? It's not like you have to go to school, and there's nothing else to do. Chen Tian continued playing with his phone without looking up. This was the truth. His life had basically been like this for the past 3 years. He couldn't find any passion at all. He felt like an old man who had retired early. It was completely different from the days when he was burning with passion. But this was also very normal. He was already at the great circle of the heaven realm and could be said to be an invincible existence in the secular world. Other than guarding Lin Yi and the other women in the villa, there was nothing else he could do. He had long since gotten used to this kind of retirement life. You're so free. Ziyu stuck her tongue out and looked over, surprised. Why are you playing this game too? So many of our classmates are playing this. I thought only us young people would play it. I didn't think that an old uncle like you would play School Beauty 3D too. How did I become an old uncle? Chen Tian said, hurt. Isn't it? Come, let me see your ID. I'll let my classmates add you, so you don't have to fight alone. Ziyu grabbed the phone and looked at it, her face turning weird. Lonely little demon? A female character? Ugh. Chen Tian blushed and explained weakly. Don't get it wrong, it's just that it's more convenient to play as a female character. It's easier to add people as friends, nothing else. Don't explain. Explaining is covering up, and covering up is the truth. I've already seen through you. You're a strange uncle with a human demon. Ziyu threw the phone back to Chen Tian and ran into the living room, screaming like she saw a ghost. Chen Tian was speechless. It was just a human demon, it wasn't stealing or robbing. How did he become a strange uncle? Hey, you said it yourself. Don't forget to let your classmates add me as friends. Chen Tian got up and ran into the living room. He turned around to see Ziyu carrying a big pile of snacks, piling them up like a small mountain on the coffee table. He jumped up. What's going on? It's just a human demon, isn't it? Is there a need for him to overeat and give up on himself to the point where his outlook on life has collapsed? Pfft, it's just a human demon. I was in the underworld back then. Do you really think I'm some naive little girl? Ziyu rolled her eyes. Underworld? You're just a kid playing house. What kind of underworld are you? Chen Tian couldn't help but laugh. Your Wu bro was also known as Iron Fist Wu, invincible in the world. He knew what Ziyu was like before Lin Yi found her. She was a delinquent girl, and it was only after Lin Yi kept an eye on her that she started to behave herself. She'd still be a little unruly from time to time. Of course, people like them all treated her like a little sister, so they didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Instead, they thought that she was cute. Pfft, and then she met Lin Yi bro and became a cripple. I'm not going to talk about this, I need to finish that drama today, don't disturb me. Ziyu hugged the snacks and turned on the TV. That drama? You're talking about that School Beauty's Bodyguard on iQIYI? I finished watching it a long time ago, it's pretty good. Don't you think the main character's experience is similar to Boss Lin's? Chen Tian laughed as he sat on the other side of the sofa, taking a bag of chips from Ziyu. His life was really boring right now, and he didn't mind watching it a second time. Not at all, alright? The main character is just a pervert, how can he compare to Lin Yi bro? Ziyu glared at him. Then why are you watching it? Chen Tian asked curiously. I'm watching it for Lin Yi bro, so he can learn from it. Otherwise, he'll be like the main character, so dumb that he can't move his legs when he sees a woman. How embarrassing. Ziyu's mouth was full of snacks, and her voice was muffled as she spoke. Chen Tian was speechless once more. He couldn't understand women's logic, especially a weird girl like Ziyu. He couldn't keep up with her at all. Right, the first season should be finished, right? Did they say when the second season is airing? Ziyu crossed her legs and asked casually. Chapter 5005. I don't know, but I saw a trailer saying that there's a show called Very Pure Very Flirtatious that's about to start filming. It's similar to this show, so we can look forward to it. Chintian said lazily as he laid on the sofa with his mouth full of chips. Not bad, not bad. Uncle Wu, you're a godly TV show expert now. I'll definitely ask you about these things in the future. Ziyu praised. It's either Grandpa Wu or Uncle Wu. I say, can't you be a little more normal? We're from the same generation, would it kill you to call him Big Bro Wu? Chintian said helplessly. Ziyu suddenly put down her snacks and sat up straight, looking at him seriously. I will. Chintian didn't know what to say anymore. He could only pinch his nose and accept his fate. Why are you back today? It's the weekend already? The school wasn't far from here, but Ziyu usually stayed in the dorms, only coming back during the weekends and holidays. After all, Lin Yi wasn't here now, and it was pointless for her to come back every day. Uncle Wu, you're from Mars, right? Don't you know tomorrow's the 11th? Ziyu asked, surprised. Doesn't that mean today's the end of the month? Chintian froze, not bothering to watch TV anymore. He quickly got up and left. I need to go buy groceries. Look after the upstairs for me, remember to check on me every half an hour. Got it, Steward Wu. Don't worry and go buy groceries. Ziyu waved her hand impatiently. Chintian had become the new generation's Uncle Fu, and everything here was handled by him. Even buying ingredients and cooking were done by him. He even signed up for a cooking class, and now he could cook so well. One could only say that his retirement life was boring to a whole new level. According to tradition, the end of every month was their gathering day. Other than Ziyu, Ling Shan, Su Shihan, Cheng Yi, and Sun Jingyi would all come. Fatty Lai, Kang Xiaobo, Yu Bing, Han Xiaopa, and Zhao Qikuan would all come as well. Although some of them would come every weekend, they were all scattered all over the world, and none of them were like Chintian, who retired early to become a full-time butler. They all had their own things to do, and it was impossible for them to get together every weekend. But this time at the end of the month was unshakable. Even if they had something to do, they'd arrange it beforehand or just push it back. This was an important gathering for them. This was Chintian's time to work. With so many people gathered together, just arranging food and drinks was a big job. He'd have to bring back a whole cart every time he went to the market, and people who didn't know him would think that he was a street vendor. He'd gotten used to the fact that new security guards would be interrogated every time. Chintian was sweeping up all the goods in the market, haggling over the prices in all sorts of ways, looking like a typical auntie who'd been in the market for decades. With his strength and family background, he wouldn't have thought that things would turn out like this, but he was enjoying it now. Time really did change everything. Chintian was busy when his phone rang. It was Ling Shan, and he quickly picked it up. Sis-in-law, you called at the right time. What do you want to eat tonight? I'm at the market right now, I won't have the chance to eat when I get back. Ling Shan smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, I have an urgent mission right now. I'm afraid I won't be able to come tonight. Please apologize to everyone for me, okay? Wu Chintian was now Lin Yi's housekeeper, and no matter who it was, they had to report to him. If they wanted to know someone's situation, they just had to ask him, and he'd know everything. Urgent mission? Chintian couldn't help but be surprised. Sister-in-law, you're the vice director of the investigation department now. What kind of important mission would require you to go personally? Everyone knows about the month-end gathering, and Director Feng wouldn't have arranged anything for you, would he? That's true, but this mission is very special, and the entire investigation department has gathered. It's not a small matter, Ling Shan said solemnly. Could it be that some noble house or sect is causing trouble again? Chintian paused. Ever since Lin Yi united all the noble houses and sects in the common world, the investigation department was like the sun in the sky. Normally, no one would dare mess with them, and even the ancient noble houses had to obey their management. But now that Lin Yi had been gone for 3 years, it was normal for people to start making trouble. It shouldn't be. We receive news that some unknown practitioners have appeared in the common world, and they seem to be very strong. But we don't know what they're trying to do or what they're trying to do, but the other noble houses and sects have gotten wind of it. If these people really want to cause trouble, it'll be a big mess. We have to be careful. Ling Shan said. If they're not from the noble houses, then could they be from Red Conches or the center? Qin Tian frowned. It wasn't strange for one or two hidden practitioners to pop up, but a group of unknown practitioners popping up out of nowhere was something they had to be careful of. Normal noble houses and sects didn't have this kind of strength, and they were more or less under the supervision of the investigation department. The only powers he knew of were Red Conches and the center. I've asked Dafeng Bro, and there's no news from him. I think it's not them this time. Ling Shan paused, but according to Dafeng Bro, the center seems to be planning something, but he's only in charge of making poisons, he doesn't have access to anything else yet. But if it's not the center, then who could it be? Qin Tian asked, puzzled. The center was the biggest suspect in this case, and if they could confirm it, they could at least make some countermeasures. But if these people didn't come from the center, and they didn't even know where they came from, then it would be troublesome. Chapter 5006. Yes, I know. Qin Tian hung up the phone and mumbled to himself as he looked at the noisy market. Could it be that some hidden power had appeared again? It was almost nightfall, and the villa was filled with people. Other than Ling Shan, everyone else was present. Qin Tian remembered what Ling Shan had told him to do and reported the news to everyone. Because of this sudden news, the lively atmosphere quieted down. They could still remember the dangerous situation of the Iron Cloak sect and He Luanan's group last time. If it wasn't for Lin Dongfang's sudden appearance, it would have been hard to say what would have happened. Now that a bunch of mysterious masters had appeared out of nowhere, who knew if they were here for them again? I've heard about this as well. The Ice Palace was quite nervous yesterday as well, and we even went to some sects we're familiar with to ask about it, Yu Bing said suddenly. Oh. What's going on, then? Everyone asked. There's nothing different from what the secret investigation department told us. The only thing we can confirm is that there are a lot of unfamiliar practitioners walking around, and judging from their strength, they should be ancient existences, but they don't belong to any of the ancient sects we're familiar with. Everyone's guessing that it might be a hidden ancient sect, but we didn't know about it before, Yu Bing said. That's a possibility, after all. The Iron Cloak sect rarely interferes with the outside world, and not many people know about it. If it wasn't for the last conflict, we wouldn't have known that they had this much power. Qin Tian nodded. But if it's a hidden ancient sect, then why are they suddenly moving around? Did something big happen? Qikuan asked, confused. Everyone frowned. Every ancient sect had their own rules, especially those sects that lived in seclusion. Basically, they strictly restricted their disciples from entering and exiting the mortal world. So many unfamiliar cultivators had suddenly appeared this time. It was impossible for there to be no major changes. Let's think of our own ways to find out more information later. No matter what, we need to be more vigilant this time. It's better to be safe than sorry, Qin Tian suggested. Everyone nodded. Lin Yi had asked them to take care of the unconscious women. They could not disappoint Lin Yi's trust. Last time, Tai Yi's sect and He Luanan's sneak attack had already left them with lingering fear. This time, they could not afford any mishaps. If that's the case, we'll have to deal with it in extreme times. I suggest that we go back to being in groups of 2, one more person means one more person. Also, make sure that your phones are on at all times so that we can contact each other immediately no matter what happens. Yu Bing nodded. Yes, I understand. Everyone nodded happily. Now, not only were there unfamiliar cultivators of unknown origins, even Brother Dafeng said that the center was planning something. They had to be on guard. If only Lin Yi was here. Shihan sighed. Yeah, I wonder how he's doing now. Although he sent a letter 2 years ago, there's no news from him anymore. Cheng Yi sighed as well. I've written a few letters already, waiting for the center's delivery. They're all gathering dust now, Sun Jingyi pouted. You're not the only one who wrote letters in secret. We've all accumulated quite a lot. It's too bad that the center's delivery is too unpredictable. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to wait like this, Chen Tian smiled bitterly. Chen Tian smiled bitterly. He was the butler now, and he had to deal with everyone quite a bit. Many of the people here had piles of letters waiting to be delivered to them. If they can send it once, there's no reason they can't send it a second time. It's been so long, do you think Boss Lin Yi is in trouble? Fatty Lai asked worriedly. What are you talking about? Don't jinx it. Everyone glared at Fatty Lai. Pft, pft, pft. Bad things don't happen, good things do. Fatty Lai quickly slapped his own mouth and comforted himself. With Boss Lin Yi's strength, he can do whatever he wants. He was fine in the letter last time, how could something happen to him? I think there must be something wrong with the center's delivery, or Boss would have sent a letter already. Oh. Could it be that the letters we wrote last time didn't reach Lin Yi Big Bro's hands? Ziyu suddenly said. That. Everyone tensed up as well. They didn't receive a receipt, they just sent it out. They didn't know if it reached Lin Yi's hands or not. They thought that it would reach Lin Yi's hands, but now that they didn't hear from Lin Yi after so long, maybe Lin Yi didn't receive their letters at all. I hope that's not the case. Too bad we can't write letters to Sky Class Island, and the center can't get accurate information either. The only thing we can do now is wait. Chen Tian smiled bitterly. Lin Yi Big Bro only mentioned Tian Chan and Sydney last time, I wonder how the others are doing. Sigh, I miss Chen Shi. Ziyu was depressed for once. Chen Shi changed her name to Tian Shi, following Tian Chan and Tian Dai of the Five Elements sect to Sky Class Island, but from what Lin Yi said, she probably got separated from Tian Chan after going up. It had been so long, and they didn't know if she managed to meet up with Lin Yi. Don't worry, the heavens help the good. Lin Yi Big Bro will find them for sure. Maybe Lin Yi Big Bro will come knocking on your door tomorrow before you wake up. Chen Tian comforted. Okay. Ziyu nodded and blinked at Chen Tian. Lonely little demon, I didn't know that you're quite good at comforting people. Lonely little demon? Everyone froze, looking at Chen Tian with a weird expression. What kind of joke is that? It's nothing. Chen Tian's face was red as he waved his hands, glaring at Ziyu who was covering her mouth. What a waste of his good intentions trying to comfort her, this girl was too evil. Everyone was in a mess. They didn't know that Chen Tian's words of comfort were about to become reality. Ever since Okuda promised to help, Lin Yi had been eager to go home. He couldn't even focus on training in the Sky Dan Pavilion, waiting for Okuda's news with all his heart. Chapter 5007. In addition to writing letters to Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't stay idle these days. He also raised Tian Chan and Sydney's strength to the peak of nascent soul realm. As for the matter of breaking through to profound ascension, it would be left for later. Although Lin Yi could create thunder tribulations for them, the two women's talents weren't as unique as Ning Xuefei's. To be safe, they still had to completely stabilize their strength before breaking through to profound ascension. Moreover, the two women's main task now was to manage the business of Tiandan Pavilion. Their strength at the peak of nascent soul realm was enough for this island, so they weren't as urgent as Ning Xuefei. In addition, Lin Yi also took advantage of these few days to refine a lot of 6th and 7th level medicinal pills, some of which were prepared for Wei Shinjin, and the rest were left for Tiandan Pavilion as reserves. Although he wouldn't be returning to the secular world for too long, it was still unknown how long he would stay, so it was better to prepare more medicinal pills just in case. Everything that needed to be prepared had been prepared, and everything that needed to be explained had also been explained. After waiting for a few more days, Lin Yi finally received news from Okuda. Everything was ready, and he could project his primordial spirit at any time. He greeted Tian Chan and Sydney. Although Okuda would take care of the primordial spirit this time, there wouldn't be any danger. However, the two women were still a little worried. Lin Yi tried his best to calm them down, but in the end, he still followed the two women and brought Wei Shenjin to the Island Master Pavilion. After all, it was a primordial spirit projection, but his body was left on Heaven Stage Island. He really needed someone to take care of him. The two arrived at the Island Master's Pavilion, and Okuda personally came out to greet them last time. The guards of the Island Master's Pavilion all recognized Lin Yi already. If they didn't even have this little bit of knowledge, how could they survive in the Island Master's Pavilion? If he were to accidentally provoke some unassuming big shot, he might just lose his life. Young hero Lin, please come with me, Okuda Island Master is already waiting in the teleportation hall. A guard captain quickly greeted him. Thank you. Lin Yi nodded, while Wei Shenjin, who was following behind him, had a look of shock on his face. This guard captain was at least an expert of the nascent soul realm, and even in the Island Lord's Pavilion, he was not a small figure. Yet, he was actually so respectful to Lin Yi. His boss was really awesome, even in the Island Lord's Pavilion, he was so popular. Arriving at the teleportation hall, Okuda waved at Lin Yi and pointed at a middle-aged man who looked like a steward. This is Steward's son of the teleportation hall. I've asked him to explain to you about the matter of primordial spirit projection. Although it's not dangerous in theory, it's better to be safe than sorry. Okuda Island Master is very thoughtful. Thank you. Lin Yi nodded, then turned to the middle-aged man and cupped his hands. Then, I'll have to trouble Manager Sunday, how would I dare? Manager Sun hurriedly bowed back. As the teleportation hall steward, although he had some power, Lin Yi was someone that even Okuda Island wanted to be on good terms with, so he did not dare to be careless. Young hero Lin, please take a look. This is the array specially used for primordial spirit projection. Manager Sun pointed at a small round table beside him. It looked ordinary, but there were complex and profound patterns drawn on the ground. Although it looked simple, it still gave people a strange feeling. Is this also a type of teleportation array? Lin Yi asked curiously. That's not it. Although this is the teleportation hall, and all the teleportation arrays in the Island Lord's Pavilion are gathered here, not all the arrays here are teleportation arrays. This array for primordial spirit projection is called the Soul Concentration Array. Manager Sun paused, then explained, this array can only be used on primordial spirit. It can focus a person's primordial spirit into a single point and use this array as a coordinate. Only then can it achieve the broken world projection. Broken world projection? When Lin Yi heard this, he immediately said, Manager Sun, you should be an expert in this field. I have a question, I wonder if you can help me answer it? Young hero Lin, please ask. I will tell you everything I know. Manager Sun said politely. I've always been curious. Is it because of the distance between Heaven Island and the secular world that they are separated from each other, or are they in two completely different planes? From what you said, since it is the broken world projection, it should be the latter, right? Lin Yi asked. The break world projection is just a general statement, Steward Sun said. I am not sure about this answer. Both are possible. But if you look at the concentration god formation, then the latter is more likely. That's right. What do you mean? Lin Yi asked. Young hero Lin, you also know that the range of the divine sense is very limited. No matter how strong an expert is, the range of the divine sense can't reach 10,000 miles. If the secular world is really in the same plane as Heaven Island, the distance between them is more than 10,000 miles. Manager Sun shook his head. But if they are separated by two planes, isn't it even more out of reach? Lin Yi asked doubtfully. That's not necessarily the case. According to my deduction, although the Heaven Stage Island and the secular world are on two different planes, the actual distance between them isn't so far that it's unacceptable, apart from the fact that they're separated by planes. Coupled with the effect of the soul concentration array, it's possible to achieve primordial spirit projection. When Manager Sun said this, he saw that Lin Yi and Okuda were all ears. He immediately felt flattered and hurriedly said, "But my level is limited. These are just my deductions. Maybe when I reach a certain level, my view will be completely different. My crude views have made a fool of me." Not at all. Manager Sun is indeed an expert in this field. I have learned a lot. Lin Yi smiled. After saying this, Lin Yi turned to Okuda with an inquisitive look. However, Okuda waved his hand and smiled bitterly. Don't ask me about this. Although the super families have a deep foundation and know more than the outside world, every super family has their own specialties. My Okuda family does not dabble in these things. Alright. Since this soul concentration array focuses all of a person's divine sense into a single point, what benefits does it have for the world-piercing projection? Lin Yi asked. This is not difficult to understand. If it is just a simple primordial spirit projection, anyone can do it as long as their primordial spirit reaches a certain level. There is not much difficulty. But if it is to project the primordial spirit from Heaven Island to the secular world, the resistance encountered is immeasurable. A normal primordial spirit cannot withstand it. Before it can be projected, it will be destroyed, Manager Sun explained. In other words, focusing all of the primordial spirit into a single point is to reduce the resistance as much as possible? Lin Yi asked thoughtfully. Chapter 5008. Doesn't that mean that the stronger the spirit, the better? Lin Yi thought of that damnable thing in terms of soul strength. There weren't many in the 5 sky-class islands that could compete with him. With such a terrifying soul strength, wouldn't it be a piece of cake to project it into the common world? Why did he go through so much trouble to find Zhang Liju in the first place? If it was just to find the bloodline of the Spirit Beast King, he could have just sent a spirit over like Nantian Aurora. Why would he put himself in danger and end up like this? That's not the case. Although in theory you can think of it that way, the effect of the spirit focusing circle is limited. According to our tests, once the spirit passes the mystic ascension stage, it won't be able to effectively focus all the spirit into one point. Steward's son shook his head. I see. Lin Yi finally understood. The spirit focusing circle was only effective for mystic ascension stage. With the ghost strength, it was impossible. Right, once the spirit is successfully projected into the common world, there will only be a thread of spirit connection between the spirit and the body. How long the spirit can stay in the common world depends on how long this thread of spirit can last. Master Lin, you must remember that once the connection weakens, you must immediately remove the spirit and come back. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable, Steward's son said solemnly. Understood. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't need Steward's son to explain the consequences to him. Once the soul was separated from the body, the soul would quickly die in the common world. Even something as powerful as that ghost ended up like that. It wasn't hard to imagine what would happen to him. If it really reached that point, Lin Yi wouldn't even have the chance to live like the ghost. He would definitely die. Okuda Master Lin, this is basically what I know. Since I haven't experienced it personally, I don't know the details. Please forgive me, Steward's son said with his hands cupped together. It's fine. I'm just looking for you to explain the theory behind the spirit concentration formation to young hero Lin. As for the details, I've also found another person. He should know better. Okuda waved his hand, then turned to Lin Yi and said, I know that young hero Lin doesn't get along with that southern polar light, but Heaven's Stage Island only opens to the secular world once every few thousand years. He's the only envoy that we can find. He's the only one who has personally experienced primordial spirit projection. Young hero Lin, please bear with me and listen. Master Okuda, you're worrying too much. This is a good thing for me. As long as he's willing to tell me, why would I refuse? Lin Yi shook his head. That's good. Oda Zhou immediately ordered someone to bring Southern Aurora over. A moment later, Nantian Aurora arrived excitedly. Due to the incident last time, Wu Miao no longer mentioned anything about helping him become the acting deputy island lord. He was currently very anxious, but Okuda suddenly sent someone to invite him over. His first reaction was to wonder if something good had come knocking on his door. However, when he saw Lin Yi standing beside Oda Zhou, Southern Aurora's eyelids twitched, and his heart sank. He said embarrassedly, "Master Okuda sent someone to summon me. May I know what instructions you have for me?" "Young hero Lin, you're preparing to primordial spirit projection to the secular world. Deputy Dean Nantian was the envoy that received you last time, so I'd like you to tell young hero Lin some things to take note of. Is that okay?" Oda Zhou looked at him. This. Southern Aurora was naturally unwilling. Although he and Lin Yi didn't have a direct conflict, it was impossible for them to be in the same boat. How could he be willing to give Lin Yi some pointers? However, with Oda Zhou right in front of him, he didn't have the guts to refuse. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Since Master Okuda has given the order, of course, there's no problem." "Alright, then tell me about it." Okuda and Lin Yi looked at each other. With an expert like Steward's son here, they didn't have to worry about Aurora Polaris spouting nonsense. After all, even if Steward's son didn't know some of the details, he would be able to figure it out after he explained it. If it didn't make sense, Steward's son would definitely question him, and Aurora Polaris wouldn't be able to walk away unscathed. Southern Aurora naturally knew about this. After thinking about it, he could only tell the truth. "I believe Steward's son has already told you about the specific process. There's nothing much to say. It's just that after primordial spirit projection, one's physical strength will be very weak for a period of time. During this period of weakness, one has to be very careful. Although there aren't many powerful existences in the secular world, if one's luck isn't good, there's still the possibility of failure." "Oh. Then how did Deputy Dean Nantian deal with it?" Lin Yi asked. Nantian Aurora glanced at him and said, "The place I was projected to was a remote mountain forest, so I simply hid there for a month. After consolidating my strength, I went to the Five Elements sect to look for Xian Chen. You know what happened after that?" Nantian Aurora glanced at him. "You could actually stay for so long?" Lin Yi was stunned. Previously, he thought that it would be good if he could stay for 10 days at most. He didn't expect that Southern Aurora would hide for a month before coming out. Seeing Lin Yi's incredulous expression, Southern Aurora's face immediately turned red. He had clearly been looked down upon by this brat on the spot. If it were any other occasion, even if he didn't lose his temper on the spot, he would definitely be so angry that he would fling his sleeves and leave. However, with Okuda watching from the side, he could only smile bitterly and explain, "At that time, I was a nascent soul paragon and had already reached the level of half-step profound ascension. In terms of strength, I was also the Academy's Grand Chancellor. Why couldn't I stay for so long? As long as I wanted to, it wouldn't be a problem for me to stay in the secular world for 2 months. Oh. Lin Yi heaved a sigh of relief. This result was far beyond his expectations. However, being able to stay a little longer was exactly what he had hoped for. He said, "If it were me, wouldn't I be able to stay in the secular world for a year? How is that possible?" Southern Aurora immediately snorted disdainfully. However, when he saw Okuda and Lin Yi's unfriendly expressions, he hurriedly covered his mouth and smiled sheepishly. "Young hero Lin, I know that you are very strong, but don't be angry when I say it. Staying for a year is just a dream." "Why do you say that?" Lin Yi asked indifferently. "The cultivation technique that I cultivate is the formless magic technique, which can rapidly imitate other people's martial arts techniques. Therefore, the requirement for divine sense is very high. Even alchemists of the same level cannot compare to me. Although I was a nascent soul paragon at that time, my divine sense was already comparable to that of a profound ascension stage expert. That's why I could stay for so long. If it were a normal nascent soul paragon, I don't think they could even stay for a month," Southern Aurora said complacently. Chapter 5009. This cultivation technique was extremely famous on the Heaven Stage Island, so much so that even he had heard of it. However, for someone like him who had mastered the 5 elements 8 trigrams killing chi and thunder burial, this ultimate killing technique, it was fine even if he had only heard of it. He wouldn't care about it at all, let alone have any covetous thoughts about it. For Southern Aurora to flaunt this kind of thing in front of him would only be asking for a snub. That's right. The formless divine technique that I cultivate is one of the legendary 5 great divine techniques. Nantian Aurora found a rare opportunity to show off in front of Okuda. If that's the case, I'll have to thank you then. Lin Yi cut her off. Huh. Before Nantian Aurora could react, Okuda had already ordered, someone, send Vice Dean Nantian out for me. I'll take my leave. Nantian Aurora's old face turned red. After a long while, he squeezed out these words and left resentfully. Okuda Island Master, I've understood everything that needs to be understood. Let's begin, Lin Yi said impatiently. Okay. Okuda nodded and nodded to Steward Sunday. Lin Yi slowly walked to the center of the concentration formation. Once everything was ready, Steward Sun finally activated the formation. In an instant, Lin Yi felt his primordial spirit being forcefully pulled out of his body and quickly condensed into a single point. This feeling was like being squeezed and crushed alive. It was not pleasant at all. Fortunately, this process did not take long. In just a short moment, the extreme condensation was completed. From the perspective of Okuda and the others, at this moment, Lin Yi's glabella looked like it was about to open a heavenly eye. An extremely dazzling and blazing light condensed, and then suddenly shot into the sky. Then, it dissipated and returned to normal. Island Master, it's a success. Steward's son heaved a sigh of relief. He was clearly just a mysterious Ascension Realm expert, but Lin Yi's primordial spirit was much stronger than he had imagined. Just now, the concentration formation even showed signs of instability. It was likely that it had reached the upper limit of what it could withstand. Fortunately, Lin Yi's primordial spirit was not stronger than this, or else all his efforts would have been in vain. Okay. Do we need to leave his body in the formation? Okuda asked. That won't be necessary. The concentration formation is only for the projection. Since it's already a success, his primordial spirit is naturally connected to his body. So, it doesn't matter where his primordial spirit is, as long as it's not isolated from divine sense. Steward's son shook his head. Okuda Island Master, since that's the case, let me bring Boss's body back to the Heavenly Pill Pavilion. That way, it'll be more convenient for us to take care of him, Wei Shinjin said. That's fine. If there's anything, you can come to the Island Lord Pavilion to find me. Young hero Lin is a friend of my Okuda family. I won't ignore his matters, Okuda said. Island Okuda. Feng Wei Wei God. Okuda, one island, Master quickly of spirit, Wu, Master Wu Wu, Sect Long, Master Su, Sect, Wu Su, Su, King Wu Su, Master Wu Su, Sect, Wan Master, Long, Us, Wan, Wu, Tang, Tian, World, Sun, Wu Miao, Jingdongjue, Nantian Aurora, and Tong Yangsua gathered together again. Jing Dongxing was among them. Although Jing Dongxing said he wanted to return to the East Continent, he couldn't make it in time for the Okuda Dam warship. Moreover, the treasure ship that traveled between the East Continent and Middle Island had only left a few days ago. He didn't know when the next one would arrive. Even though he was a 7th grade pill refiner, he couldn't go to the East Continent whenever he wanted. There were only 2 ways to get to the East Continent from Middle Island. Either the treasure ship or the flying spirit beast. He couldn't count on the treasure ship for the time being, but he couldn't rely on the flying spirit beast either. The East Continent was too far away from the other heaven rank islands. Unless he had an extremely powerful ferocious bird like the ghost-eyed golden eagle, it would be very difficult for ordinary flying spirit beasts to travel between the 2 islands. Of course, there was no lack of evil secret techniques in this world. One could use the cruel method of burning the life force of flying spirit beasts to travel between the East Continent and the other heaven-rank islands. Unfortunately, Jing Dongxing wasn't an evil expert like the Almighty in West Mountain. He was just a pill refiner. How could he know such evil secret techniques? Jing Dongxing had no choice but to wait in the medicine sect. He didn't want to wait for the treasure ship to arrive in the East Continent. Instead, he received news that Lin Yi's primordial spirit had been projected to the secular world. Does this mean that Lin Yi won't be coming back anytime soon? Jing Dongxing confirmed. That's right. Although he's only in the early stage mysterious ascension stage, he's very powerful. I estimate that given the strength of his primordial spirit, he can stay in the secular world for at least 4 months. He might even stay for half a year. Moreover, he came from the secular world, so he shouldn't be coming back anytime soon. Therefore, we don't have to worry about him for the time being, said Nantian Aurora with a nod. It's worth celebrating. This is a rare piece of good news, said Wu Miao happily. Due to the previous incident, his position in the Island Master Pavilion was somewhat awkward. Although the Executive Deputy Island Master was the second in command, if Okuda Prefecture didn't like him, his authority would definitely be greatly reduced. Now that Lin Yi was gone, Wu Miao had a chance to repair her relationship with Okuda Prefecture. After all, they didn't have a direct conflict with each other. They only had a disagreement because of Lin Yi. Both of them were influential figures. He believed that Okuda Prefecture wouldn't really fall out with him, the second in command, for the sake of the overall situation. Nantian Aurora was overjoyed as well. This was truly a glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. His future had been bleak, but now that Lin Yi had left, Wu Miao would be able to stabilize her position in the Island Lord's pavilion. Her position as the acting Vice Island Lord was just around the corner. Her future was truly boundless. Indeed. This way, Tiandan Pavilion will be without a leader. It'll be much easier to deal with them in the future, sneered Jing Dongxing. Oh. From what Master Jing said, are you going to change your mind and not return to East Continent? Asked Wu Miao. Our base has already been destroyed. What can I do even if I go back now? Since I can't go back, I might as well stay in Middle Island and guard the medicine sect. I'll think of a way to get rid of Tiandan Pavilion first, said Jing Dongxing hatefully. After waiting for a few days, he had calmed down. His hatred had completely shifted to Lin Yi and Tiandan Pavilion. Since he couldn't deal with Lin Yi for the time being, he would deal with Tiandan Pavilion first to vent his hatred. You're right, cousin. The medicine sect is one of our Jing family's most important businesses. We must take this opportunity to get rid of Tiandan Pavilion. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if we can't deal with it in the future, agreed Jing Dongjue. Chapter 50-10. Lin Yi was completely unaware of all this. His condensed primordial spirit was penetrating a broken space. Although its speed was extremely fast, he also felt a great resistance at the same time. Every moment he moved forward, he felt that his primordial spirit was getting weaker. This was under the premise that the resistance was weakened to the greatest extent. If there was no concentration array to condense the primordial spirit into a point, not to mention the world-breaking projection, Lin Yi felt that he could not even hold on for a moment. He estimated that as soon as he entered the broken space, his primordial spirit would be wiped out. The primordial spirit traveled through the broken space for an unknown amount of time until it was weakened to less than 1/10 of its original strength. Finally, the front suddenly became clear, and the primordial spirit entered a new stable space. Lin Yi was immediately delighted. This should be the success of the primordial spirit projection, right? In front of him was a vast mountain forest. He did not know where this place was, but Lin Yi soon keenly discovered that this should be the secular world. It was not purely an assumption, but because the spiritual energy here was far less rich and abundant than on Heaven Stage Island. There was no place on Heaven Stage Island with such thin spiritual energy, so this must be the secular world without a doubt. He did not feel it before, but now that he had experienced the environment of Heaven Stage Island for so long, Lin Yi suddenly understood why Heaven Stage Island was isolated from the secular world. It was also no wonder that the practitioners in the secular world yearned to go to Heaven Stage Island. Even if he was just a commoner with no background on the Heaven Step Island, the cultivation environment there was much better than that of the secular world. Even those hidden ancient sects could only look on in the dust. This was the case in the heavens and the earth. However, a son would not dislike an ugly mother, and a dog would not dislike a poor family. Although the secular world could not be compared to Heaven Stage Island, for Lin Yi, it was, after all, his hometown. This long-lost sense of familiarity could not be compared to any place on Heaven Stage Island. Even in the northern base camp, he rarely had this sense of belonging. Now, he was finally home. Going home was going home, but Lin Yi was really not used to this current state. At this time, he was a spirit with an uncertain shape, like a ghost, as if it would dissipate with the wind. There was no sense of security to speak of. This state was too unstable. Lin Yi quickly began to shape the spirit into his own spirit body. Although there was no difference in essence between the two, after becoming the spirit body, he could more or less find some familiarity with the physical body. Moreover, the primordial spirit was a condensed version of the primordial spirit. To a certain extent, it was a physical existence. There were many things that the primordial spirit form could not do, but the primordial spirit form could. However, this kind of transformation would consume more than half of the divine sense. The strength of the primordial spirit was originally less than a tenth of its original strength. While shaping his Yuanshan body, Lin Yi was also carefully observing his current state. Just as Steward's son had said, he could clearly feel the thread of Yuanshan connection between himself and his physical body. This feeling was very subtle, not as unreachable as he had imagined, but unexpectedly close. It was as if the distance between his Yuanshan and his physical body was not that great, only a layer of shattered space separated them. At this moment, if there was someone beside him, they would definitely be stunned by the scene in front of them. A cloud of white mist slowly surged, and a somewhat humanoid silhouette appeared. The torso, limbs, and head became clearer bit by bit, and even the clothes were transformed. In a moment, it had become a living person. Lin Yi didn't find this strange, but when he became a real soul, he was shocked because there was a jade pendant hanging on his chest. How could this be? Lin Yi was stunned. He had just transformed the clothes, and didn't even think about transforming the jade pendant. After all, this thing was worn on his physical body on Heaven Stage Island. Even if it was transformed here, it would just be an ordinary ornament, and it would be meaningless. Lin Yi quickly picked it up, and the expression on his face suddenly became more and more surprised. This kind of solid touch was clearly a real jade pendant. This thing was actually brought here by him. But he clearly didn't do anything. Thinking of all kinds of magical and heaven-defying aspects of the jade pendant, Lin Yi's heart suddenly moved. Could it be that this thing followed him here? A physical jade pendant was actually projected into the secular world together with the spirit. Although this sounded incredible, but thinking about it, which ability of this jade pendant was not incredible? If it was said that the jade pendant had no spirituality, Lin Yi absolutely wouldn't believe it. Since it was an object with spirituality, then it was not difficult to understand that it followed its master through time. It could only be said that the world was so big that nothing was too strange. After seeing so much of the world, Lin Yi was already used to these things. Although there were no decent masters in the secular world, the existence of the jade pendant could, after all, make it a lot more convenient for Lin Yi to do a lot of things. This was a rare and unexpected surprise. Compared to this, Lin Yi was more concerned about the ghost staying in the jade pendant. Since the jade pendant had passed through, then the ghost should have followed it. Senior Ghost, we are finally back. Lin Yi couldn't wait to find the ghost and said. During this time, the ghost seemed to have been in closed-door cultivation, but this time it was rare to come back to the secular world, so it was not too much to disturb it. You are finally back. Long time no see, little Lin. A very familiar voice came from the jade pendant. Pooh. Cough cough. When Lin Yi heard this voice, he suddenly choked. After a long time, he reacted in disbelief. Jiao Lao. Why is it you? Why can't it be me? Don't you miss me? Jiao Yazi's tone was a bit mischievous. No, I mean, why are you awake? As Lin Yi said this, he separated a trace of divine sense into the space of the jade pendant. Sure enough, Jiao Lao had returned to his normal state, and was no longer in the state of a disconnected phantom. This is the secular world, not the heavenly island. Of course I am awake. Jiao Yazi stretched in the space of the jade pendant. Lin Yi stayed in the heavenly island for 3 years, and he also slept for 3 years. Although it was not like a real body that would rust, there was still an inexplicable sense of alienation. That's great. Lin Yi was overjoyed. Jiao Yazi was an elder to him. It was a great thing to see Jiao Yazi return to normal, but on the other side, when he saw a black fog phantom, he was suddenly stunned. Senior Ghost, don't ask me, I don't know what is going on. Speaking of which, I am even more confused than you. Little Lin, how did you come back? Jiao Yazi asked in confusion. Chapter 50:11. The ghostly thing didn't look like it was in closed-door cultivation at all. It was clearly a group of shadows, similar to the state of Jiao Yazi on Heaven Island. It had inexplicably entered a dormant state and couldn't be woken up. This doesn't make sense. I fell into a dormant state on Heaven Island because I couldn't resonate with the origin memory, but what's going on with him? Didn't the jade pendant bring him along? Jiao Yazi asked curiously. This is possible because Senior Ghost has always been in closed-door cultivation. I didn't mention the matter of spirit projection to him. I thought that the jade pendant must have been left on the main body on Heaven Island, so it shouldn't have any effect on him. I didn't expect the jade pendant to actually follow me. Maybe Senior Ghost was really caught off guard and was left behind, so he only left behind this shadow. Lin Yi rubbed his chin thoughtfully. This wasn't impossible. If he wanted to break the boundary projection, he had to rely on the concentration spirit array. With the level of the ghostly thing's super strong spirit, the concentration spirit array had no effect on him. It would be strange if he could really follow me. It was reasonable for him to be left behind if he wasn't careful. However, this was also Lin Yi's own speculation. After all, the ability of the jade pendant was really beyond imagination. What if it really brought the ghostly thing over? Maybe it was just that the ghostly thing couldn't withstand the impact, so it fell into a dormant state. As for what the situation is, you will naturally know after a while or when you return to Heaven Island, Jiao Yazi said. And this is the only way for now. Lin Yi nodded. Although the ghostly thing's situation made him a little worried, since Jiao Yazi had recovered, it meant that this was indeed the secular world. There were still a lot of things to do. After the primordial spirit was completely shaped, Lin Yi finally experienced the feeling of having his feet on the ground again. Although he also yearned for the ability to fly, he did not like the feeling of floating. A gust of wind would make him lose control of his body. How was this flying? It was clearly a lonely wild ghost. After forming his primordial soul, Lin Yi recalled Southern Polar Light's words. His first reaction was to check his current strength. However, at this moment, the jade pendant suddenly emitted an urgent warning. There were actually 2 people, one in front and one behind, rushing over from a distance in the dense forest. Strange. There's nothing special about this deep mountain forest, but there's actually such a large spiritual energy fluctuation. Could it be that some kind of spirit beast has appeared? The leader was a young man wearing a strange Taoist robe of an unknown sect. Although he looked handsome, his pair of white eyebrows were a little out of place with his appearance. It was very strange. No way. The spiritual energy in the secular world is so thin. How could there be any spirit beasts? Even if there really are spirit beasts, after staying in this place for a long time, they would probably degenerate to the same level as ordinary wild beasts. The man following behind looked much more mature. He was just like a handsome middle-aged uncle with an elegant demeanor. Brother Fei, there are always exceptions to everything. Although the secular world is trash, there are always some redeeming qualities. Who knows, there might be some strange places that give birth to spirit beasts, the man with the surname Fei said with a smile. Brother Sun's words are reasonable. However, compared to spirit beasts, I feel that the possibility of it being a heavenly treasure is higher, the man with the surname Fei speculated. Although heavenly treasures also required the nourishment of spiritual energy, if the surrounding conditions were suitable, the requirement for spiritual energy would not be as high as that of spirit beasts. In the cultivation world, it was often said that a place with spirit beasts would definitely have heavenly treasures. However, a place with heavenly treasures might not necessarily have spirit beasts. It doesn't matter if it's a heavenly treasure or a spirit beast. Since we've encountered it, it's our fate. Brother Fei, we've already agreed that no matter what it is, we'll split it evenly. Otherwise, we'll use other resources to exchange. The two of us can't fight over this, the man with the white eyebrows said with a smile. Hee, Sun Baimei, you and I have known each other for more than a year or two. Just based on our friendship, do you think you'll fall out with me over such a small profit? Fei Yangxing couldn't help but laugh. Brother Fei is right. Then let's take a good look at what treasure is in front of us. Sun Baimei laughed and increased his speed. Fei Yangxing followed closely behind. Hearing the movements of the two people getting closer, Lin Yi's first reaction was to escape. Admittedly, with the strength of his main body, which was comparable to the early stage of the mountain opening stage, he would definitely be a terrifying existence in the secular world that could destroy all the ancient sects with a flick of his finger. However, the problem was that he was only a Yuanshen. Moreover, it was a Yuanshen that had just been sent over, so it was in its weakest state. His current strength wasn't even at the heaven stage full circle. To be honest, even with this strength, he could be said to be invincible in the secular world. However, the two people in front of him clearly didn't come with good intentions. Moreover, according to Lin Yi's divine sense, these two people were definitely not simple. Although he had the thought of escaping, the Yuanshen had just been formed, so Lin Yi couldn't adapt to it in a short time. When he took his first step, he almost stumbled and fell. Even though he had adapted very quickly and could smoothly control his body in the blink of an eye, under such circumstances, how fast could he run? In the blink of an eye, Sun Baimei and Fei Yangxing were already in front of him. When they saw Lin Yi, they were instantly shocked. Why is it a person? However, Sun Baimei immediately realized that something was wrong. He was overjoyed and shouted, "No! This is a Yuanshen. I didn't expect there to be a Yuanshen with such strong spiritual energy here. This is great. This trip to the secular world was not a waste. As long as I refine it, I will have a chance to break through to the golden core stage. Oh! I almost forgot. Brother Sun, the divine skill that you cultivate is specially for devouring spiritual objects. Congratulations." Fei Yangxing was a little regretful. Whether it was a spiritual beast or a natural treasure, he could have gotten a share of it. Unfortunately, this Yuanshen had appeared out of nowhere. To Sun Baimei, it was a priceless treasure, but to him, it was of no use at all. Please help me, Brother Fei. I will devour it now. Sun Baimei couldn't wait to take action. After seeing the two of them up close, Lin Yi was shocked. What the hell? Why are these two experts at the foundation establishment stage? Was this still the secular world? Could it be that he had accidentally been sent to another plane by mistake? However, Lin Yi immediately denied this idea. If Jiao Yazi hadn't woken up, he might have had to investigate further. However, since Jiao Yazi had woken up, it meant that this was definitely the secular world. The problem was, since when did the secular world have a Heaven Dao stage expert? Chapter 50-12. In an instant, Lin Yi's mind was filled with all sorts of possibilities, but he didn't have time to think about it. With his current strength that wasn't even at the heaven stage great perfection, he couldn't fight back at all. He could only run. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly when he recalled what Nantian Aurora had said before. They were both yuanshers who could comfortably hide for a month to consolidate their strength, but he, on the other hand, was being hunted down the moment he was sent over. The difference in treatment was too big, wasn't it? Of course, if this was the heaven stage island, the strength of these two people could only be said to be very ordinary. One was in the late stage of foundation establishment, and the other was in the middle stage. Lin Yi could casually kill a bunch of them with a slap, but this was the secular world. His strength wasn't even at the heaven stage great perfection. What should he do, however? Although the psychological gap was huge, Lin Yi was never a one-track-minded person. At this time, he didn't care about the pride of a profound ascending stage master. If he couldn't win, he would run. This was his life motto. Lin Yi never saw escaping as a shameful thing. This was the case in the secular world, and it was the same on the heaven stage island. As long as there's life, there's hope. When he was strong enough, he could trample on them again. After all, revenge was a dish best served cold. Seeing that Lin Yi turned and ran, Bai Mei immediately became anxious. This was a rare opportunity for him. How could he let it go so easily? He would be punished by the heavens. Where do you think you're going? Bai Mei shouted and immediately chased after him without caring about anything else. His speed was raised to the extreme. In the eyes of ordinary people, he was like a human cannonball. After all, he was a late-stage foundation establishment stage master. Normally, it was impossible to see him in the secular world. In order to take down Lin Yi, he went all out without caring about the price. Even Fei Yangsheng, who was in the middle stage of foundation establishment stage, couldn't catch up. On the other hand, because Lin Yi wasn't familiar with the Yuanshan body, he finally managed to escape smoothly. In the end, the distance between the two was instantly shortened to less than a meter. No spirit creature that I've set my eyes on can escape. Capture. As Sun Bai Mei spoke, he suddenly raised his wide sleeves. It was unknown what method he used, but an astonishing suction force came from his sleeves. Ordinary cultivators might be able to resist it, but this suction force was extremely effective against primordial spirits. It was at least 10 times stronger. To be precise, this move was specifically used to subdue spiritual objects, especially against primordial spirits. Lin Yi lost his balance and was almost sucked in. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough. At the critical moment, he counterattacked with the power of thunder and lightning. If it was Lin Yi's original body, he could easily kill a nascent soul stage cultivator with just a casual lightning strike, let alone Sun Bai Mei, who was only at the late foundation establishment stage. Unfortunately, he was just a weak primordial spirit, so the lightning he hurriedly threw out was pitifully weak. It was only a faint blue electric arc. However, although it wasn't very powerful, it came so suddenly. Sun Bai Mei didn't even have time to react before he was hit. His body suddenly became numb, and a gap appeared in his movements. Lin Yi took the opportunity to escape from the suction force of his sleeves. Without saying anything, he ran for his life. In the blink of an eye, he had escaped a large distance. Actually, with Lin Yi's personality, if Sun Bai Mei was alone, he might have tried to counterattack. Although his current strength was so weak that he couldn't withstand a single blow, he had a lot of battle experience. Moreover, he had many trump cards. It wasn't impossible for him to counterattack and kill a late foundation establishment stage cultivator. Unfortunately, Sun Bai Mei wasn't alone. There was still Fei Yangsheng chasing after him. Lin Yi would have a hard time dealing with one of them. If he was attacked by two of them, he would definitely fail miserably. An expert that was comparable to an early mountain opening stage cultivator had actually died at the hands of a mere foundation establishment stage cultivator. Just thinking about it made Lin Yi feel like he had died with regrets. "Brother Sun, are you okay?" Fei Yangsheng caught up to him and asked. "I'm fine." I don't know why I felt numb just now, but there are no signs of injury. It should just be a bluff. Looks like I'll need Brother Fei's help this time. No matter what, we can't let it escape. When we get back, I'll reward you handsomely. Sun Baimei's face was full of confidence. Okay. Fei Yangxing nodded and immediately chased after Lin Yi with all his might. As for Sun Baimei, who was faster, he changed directions. From the previous encounter, he knew that the speed of this spirit wasn't fast. He could completely surround it and block it from the front. When that happened, he and Fei Yangxing would attack it from the front and back. Let's see where it could run to. Through divine sense, Lin Yi could clearly see the actions of these two people. However, he couldn't do anything about it. The other party had an overt plot. As long as he was slower than Sun Baimei, he would be surrounded sooner or later. The only good news was that after moving for a while, Lin Yi had adapted to the spirit body a lot. His movements were becoming smoother and smoother, and his speed was recovering bit by bit. However, the problem was that it wasn't fast enough. If this continued, he might really fail miserably. This couldn't go on, but Lin Yi couldn't stop. That would only make him die faster. If he wanted to survive, he could only brace himself and continue to run. In fact, other than running away, Lin Yi had another option, which was to release his spirit body before he was blocked by the other party. This way, he would become a spirit that had an unstable form and could float in the air to escape. He could even cancel this journey and use the spirit connection to escape back to Heaven Stage Island. However, if he did that, the spirit projection would be meaningless. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Yi would never do that. Moreover, even if he didn't escape back to Heaven Stage Island, every time he changed between the spirit body and the spirit body, it would inevitably consume a lot of his spirit body. Originally, with the strength of Lin Yi's spirit body, he might be able to last for half a year. However, if he kept going back and forth like this, he might not even last for a month. Although the current situation was dangerous, it wasn't to the point where he was at the end of the line. Lin Yi's eyes flashed. This crisis had indeed caught him off guard, but he was now completely excited. Even Heaven Stage Island, which was filled with experts, couldn't stop him. Once he returned to the secular world, he would be forced into a dead end. How could this be possible? After a while, Lin Yi's speed became faster and faster. However, he was still blocked by Sun Baimei. With a wave of his hand, he used the spirit absorption technique and laughed complacently. Let's see where you can escape this time. Chapter 50-13. For a moment, Lin Yi was caught in a dilemma. However, he was not in a hurry. He suddenly dodged to the side and threw out a small alchemy-fired genuine chi bomb. This was a big move that he had painstakingly used along the way. As for the more powerful ultimate moves like Thunder Burial, he could not use them at all in his current state. However, even if it was only a small alchemy-fired genuine chi bomb, it was enough to give Bai Mei and Fei Yangxing a hard time if they were caught off guard. As expected, Bai Mei and Fei Yangxing did not have the chance to react. They were directly blown away by the explosion. When they stood up, their faces were covered in blood and they looked miserable. Why, I'm so angry. Bai Mei's son was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. Being injured was secondary. After all, neither he nor Fei Yangxing were too close to it. At this moment, they only looked miserable, but their actual injuries were not too serious. The key was that the cooked duck had flown away the moment it was removed from the pot. How could he not be anxious? As he cursed, he gritted his teeth and chased after Lin Yi. This time, Bai Mei and Fei Yangxing were really determined. They took out all their trump cards and stopped Lin Yi at all costs. However, what shocked the two was that they couldn't catch up to Lin Yi even though they were running as fast as they could. Instead, they could only watch as Lin Yi got further and further away, disappearing without a trace in a matter of moments. Not even his shadow could be found. Is this a ghost? Fei Yangxing's mouth opened so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. Ghost my ass. Sun Baimei cursed angrily and said unwillingly, but this primordial spirit is unexpectedly strong. Not only can it maintain its human form, but it also has so many tricks. It's a pity that it escaped. Otherwise, it would have a chance to break through to the Gold Core realm. Then, should we still chase after it? Fei Yangxing asked. Let's try chasing after it again. If we're lucky, we might be able to catch up. Sun Baimei was still hoping that he would get lucky. In any case, it was impossible for him to give up just like that. It was not easy for him to encounter such a powerful primordial spirit. If he could capture this primordial spirit, it would be equivalent to over 100 years of bitter cultivation. No matter how much time he spent, it would be worth it. He had already made up his mind. He could give up on everything else in this trip to the mortal world, except for the primordial spirit. No matter what methods he had to use, he had to capture him. While the two of them were talking, Lin Yi had already fled dozens of miles away. Just now, he had taken advantage of the aftermath of the alchemic fire real chi bomb, and at the same time, he had used the real chi jet technique. His speed had been raised to the extreme in an instant, and he had become more and more familiar with the primordial spirit body. Not only did it not slow down, it actually seemed to be getting faster and faster. So much so that Lin Yi felt that his current speed was even faster than when he was on Heaven Island. Was it because his soul was lighter? It wasn't easy to get rid of Bai Mei's son and Fei Yangxing. When Lin Yi slowed down, he was already at the edge of the forest. It seemed that a small town wasn't far away. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment. He was currently in a weak state. Normally, it would be best to consolidate his strength in a place where no one would disturb him. However, he didn't dare to stay in the forest anymore. Who knew if he would meet those two again? In comparison, it was safer to go to a small town. Since he couldn't hide in the forest, then he would hide in the city. After walking along a road that wasn't considered wide for 20 minutes, Lin Yi quickly entered the town. The surrounding crowd and traffic also increased. Looking at the secular city in front of him, which he hadn't seen for a long time, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel as if it was a lifetime ago. 3 years, although he had only left for 3 years. In the mortal world, he might have only gone abroad to study, and there wouldn't be too many feelings. However, he had gone to the completely isolated Heaven Island. Whether or not he could come back was unknown, not to mention that too many things had happened in the past 3 years. It was inevitable that things would remain the same, but people would change. Phew, I'm finally back. Lin Yi stretched, and his mood suddenly became a lot better. He didn't feel nervous when he was being chased just now. Instead, he felt a sense of familiarity as if he had returned home. Unfortunately, this wasn't West Star Mountain, nor was it East Sea City. It was just an unknown small town. Beep, beep, beep. Suddenly, a sharp horn sounded behind him. An electric tricycle stopped behind Lin Yi, and a middle-aged uncle's head popped out. Where are you going? What? Lin Yi had been away from the secular world for too long, so he didn't react for a moment. I said, where are you going? Are you going to get in or not? The middle-aged uncle frowned with a cheap cigarette butt in his mouth. Only then did Lin Yi realize that it was a 3-wheeled motorcycle. He quickly shook his head. I'm not going anywhere. Then why are you randomly waving your hands? Do you have nothing better to do? You're wasting my time. The middle-aged uncle cursed and ran away in an instant. The 3-wheeled motorcycle flashed through the traffic and people, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. That was a superb skill. Lin Yi was stunned. After a while, he smiled bitterly and shrugged. Sure enough, this was the familiar secular world. He looked around the surrounding environment. Although this county was far from as prosperous and developed as East Sea City, the downtown area here was not bad. There were people coming and going, and there were all kinds of shops on both sides of the street. However, There weren't as many high-rise buildings as in big cities, so the environment was slightly messy. Thinking of the two people who had just chased him, Lin Yi didn't dare to neglect them. Right now, he had to quickly find a place to rest. Although there were many people in the downtown area, if the two people didn't give up and chased him, there was still a possibility of being discovered. Right now, he was a primordial spirit, so his body was a physical existence to a certain extent. Therefore, in the eyes of ordinary people, he was no different from an ordinary person. He could do anything that ordinary people could do, but this wasn't safe. After all, he was a primordial spirit. In the eyes of people like Bai Mei's son who specialized in this kind of cultivation technique, he was naturally a big light bulb. Even if he mixed in the crowd, he would be recognized at a glance. Therefore, he had to find a safe place to hide. Lin Yi looked around and found a secluded corner of the park to recover his qi. He'd used up almost all of it when he was running for his life, and it was a good thing that the jade came with him. Replenishing qi alone would have been a huge problem. It'd take at least 10 days to half a month before he'd be able to recover. Chapter 50:14. Late Heaven Rank. Lin Yi was speechless as he sensed his current strength. He had worked hard for a few years, only to return to the state he was in. He really didn't know what to say. With a sigh, Lin Yi got up and walked out of the corner of the park. There weren't many people in this place, but from time to time, couples would sneak in. If they weren't careful, they might even see some unsightly scenes. Lin Yi wasn't a pervert who liked to peep at other people's privacy, so he could only step down and give way. Walking to the entrance of the park where people were coming and going, Lin Yi suddenly remembered that this was the secular world. There was no one who could recognize high-grade goods like spirit jades. No matter what they wanted to do, they would use paper money. In this secular world, it was difficult to move an inch without money. With that thought, Lin Yi quickly checked the jade pendant, remembering that Chen Tian had stuffed some cash into it when he was preparing things for him. It seemed like an unnecessary move back then, but it would come in handy now. Lin Yi searched for a while, and sure enough, he found a stack of cash in a pile of miscellaneous items. He took a look at it and found that it was exactly 10,000 yuan. 10,000 yuan is not enough. Lin Yi shook his head and sighed. He casually put the 10,000 yuan into his trouser pocket. He had deliberately chosen to wear the clothes of the secular world when his soul was formed. Otherwise, if he really wore the clothes of the Heaven Stage Island, people would think that he was filming a movie when he walked on the street, and he would have attracted a lot of attention. 10,000 wasn't a small amount, and it was more than enough for him to go to Donghai to find Lingshan and Chintian. But Lin Yi didn't plan to do that at the moment. He just wanted to find a safe place to recover his strength and figure out where the two Sky Dao practitioners came from. Otherwise, he wouldn't feel at ease. But in this way, a mere 10,000 yuan seemed to be a bit of a stretch. If he were to find a slightly better hotel, he probably wouldn't be able to squander for long. However, this was a small county. If he were to find an ordinary hotel, the environment would definitely not be good. How could he cultivate in peace? After thinking about it, Lin Yi felt that the best way was to rent a house. Anyway, he didn't have to rent it for too long. A month should be enough. Even if it was the best suite in a small county, it would probably not cost more than 5,000 renminbi. Even if he included the deposit, he would still have some cash left. After making up his mind, Lin Yi immediately began to look for a real estate agent along the street. Although it was said that renting a house through an agent was not reliable, Lin Yi was only renting for a month as an emergency. It was not like he was going to stay for 3 to 5 years. You're committing a crime, understand? The crew cut grabbed the old man's collar and said, "Kiddo, you've heard what happened. Can you please speak up for me? Don't you think the lottery ticket belongs to me?" The old man didn't bother with the crew cut as he insisted on asking Lin Yi. "That's right. This matter can't be settled between the two of us. Bro, you judge who should this lottery ticket belong to," the crew cut said. Lin Yi looked at the two of them and said faintly, I didn't see what happened with my own eyes. I only heard a few words from the two of you. How can I judge? But since both sides are right, why don't you just call the police? Let the police decide for you. Call the police? I just picked up a lottery ticket from my stall. Is there a need to call the police so serious? The old man was shocked. That's right. There's no need to trouble the police for such a small matter. I think it's better to settle it privately. The crew cut's expression also changed. Since you've decided to settle it privately, then the two of you can discuss it among yourselves. Lin Yi had an attitude of staying out of this matter. After all, this kind of matter couldn't be explained clearly. He could only let the two of them discuss it themselves. Chapter 50-15. Do you think we should split it evenly? The old man was still reluctant. Then there's nothing else to say. Call the police. The crew cut immediately took out his phone. No. Perhaps the old man was afraid of trouble, or perhaps he knew he was in the wrong. He quickly reached out and stopped him. Although he was reluctant, he still reluctantly said, half then. Give me the money, and I will give you the lottery ticket. Look carefully. Here's 5,000. Give me the lottery ticket. The crew cut reached into his arms and took out a stack of money. He looked ordinary and didn't wear any branded clothes. It was a little surprising that he carried so much money with him. 5,000? The old man was stunned when he saw so much money. He might not be able to earn so much money in a year, but he quickly realized that something was wrong. He shouted, You just said 30,000. Why do you only give me 5,000? Are you bullying me because I'm uneducated? If you want this lottery ticket, give me 15,000. 15,000? You old man look honest, but I didn't expect you to be so evil. You want 15,000? You must be crazy about money. The crew cut said as he was about to hit the old man. The old man quickly hid behind Lin Yi and shouted, Young man, you saw it. He said he wanted to split it evenly. He wants to fool me by giving me 5,000 for a lottery ticket that's worth 30,000. He's bullying me because I don't know how to count. Bullshit. Don't you know that there's a tax on the lottery ticket? How dare you ask for 30,000? After deducting 20% of the income tax, there's only 24,000 left. Do you understand? The crew cut couldn't hit the old man, so he could only control his temper and anger. 24,000? The old man was stunned for a moment. He thought for a long time and shouted, You can't just give me 5,000. Young man, help me calculate. How much is half of 24,000? 12,000. Lin Yi said calmly. Yes, 12,000. You see, even this young man said 12,000. You little punk still want to lie to me? The old man was so angry that his face turned red. Well, if you say so, then give me 12,000, and this lottery ticket is yours. How about it, old man? The crew cut said. How can a vegetable farmer like me have so much money? The old man could not help but sound a little embarrassed. He looked at the man with the crew cut and said, I see that you have a lot of money on you. As long as you give me 12,000, this lottery ticket is yours. You wish. Why do I have to do such a troublesome thing and let an old man like you take advantage of it? Let me tell you, I only have 5,000 here. I don't have any more than that. Just tell me if you want it or not. The crew cut said in a tough tone. The old man gritted his teeth and said, No, I'm already at a disadvantage if I have to split it with you. Now, it's going to turn from 12,000 to 5,000. Do you really think I'm easy to fool? Okay, I'll call the police now. Old man, don't even think about getting 5,000. The crew cut pretended to pick up his phone again. You. The old man immediately became angry and anxious. He quickly stopped him and said, All right, I'll take a step back. I don't want 12,000. As long as you give me 10,000, this lottery ticket is yours. Is that okay? I told you, I only have a total of 5,000 with me. I don't have any more than that. If you can give me 10,000, I have no objection. No, as a young man, I'm a little more generous. I don't need 10,000. As long as you give me 5,000, this lottery ticket is yours. How about it, old man? You have nothing to say now, right? The crewcut sneered. The old man looked a little tempted, but he still said embarrassedly, I don't have 5,000 either. What else is there to say? Since you can't give me 5,000, then I'll give you 5,000. The lottery ticket is mine, or I'll just call the police. Old man, you choose. As the crewcut said this, he reached out to grab the lottery ticket again. The old man quickly hid behind Lin Yi and shouted, Only 5,000? I might as well give it to someone else. Young man, as long as you give me 5,000, I'll give you this lottery ticket. Anyway, I can't let this little hooligan have it. Damn, who are you calling a little hooligan? The crewcut suddenly became anxious. He immediately rushed over to hit the old man, but the old man was very agile at this time. He dodged left and right around Lin Yi. The two of them chased each other and surrounded Lin Yi in the middle, making it impossible for him to escape. Seeing that they were fighting, the passers-by surrounded them. The crewcut saw that the situation was not good, so he stopped and quickly pulled Lin Yi and the old man to the side of the street corner. He lowered his voice and said, Forget it. I'll admit that I'm unlucky today, but I don't want to let this old man have it. How about this? Brother, you give me 5,000, and give this old man another 5,000. I'll let you have it. Old man, you don't have any objections, right? Yes, I can see that you are a good person. It's better to let a good person like you have it than to let a little hooligan like him have it. As long as you give me 5,000, the lottery ticket is yours. The old man followed. Really? Lin Yi's expression was a little tempted, but he was a little hesitant. Of course it's true. You give each of us 5,000, and you can get 24,000 with this lottery ticket. There's nothing cheaper than this in the world, right? I didn't bring that much money. If I brought 10,000, you wouldn't have the chance to take advantage of this. The crewcut said resentfully. But how do I know if this lottery ticket is really a winner? Lin Yi's face was still a little vigilant. Isn't it simple? Look at the number and date of this lottery ticket. You can just check it on your phone. Can this kind of thing be deceived? Here, take a look. The crewcut found the official website of the welfare lottery on his phone and found the current prize announcement for Lin Yi to see. Lin Yi leaned over and took a closer look. Then, he said in a surprised tone, It's really the 10th prize. You see, this kind of thing can't be deceived at all. Bro, do you want it? If you don't want it, I will find someone else. You can exchange 10,000 for 24,000. As long as I call out, there will be people who will snatch this advantage. I think you are a good person, so I'm giving it to you. The crewcut said as he took 2 steps forward, looking like he was going to walk out of the alley. Young man, I know you are a good person with good intentions. You can take advantage of it. Anyway, it's the same no matter who takes advantage of it. It's better to give it to you. I like you. The old man also persuaded. The two of them talked back and forth. One was trying to persuade Lin Yi, while the other was playing hard to get. In the end, Lin Yi finally relented. He carefully took out the 10,000 from his trouser pocket, divided it into 2 stacks, and handed them to the two of them. Give me the lottery ticket. You two can count it clearly. 5,000 each, and this lottery ticket has nothing to do with you. Chapter 50:16. Don't worry, I'm not as shameless as this old man. It's clearly not his lottery ticket, but he still extorted 5,000 yuan, and he even looked like he suffered a loss. The crewcut scolded disdainfully, then took the 5,000 yuan and left. Who are you calling shameless, you little hooligan? Tell me clearly. The old man also quickly put away the money, picked up the pole, and chased after him while cursing. The two of them disappeared into the alleyway in a matter of minutes, and Lin Yi was the only one left in the empty alleyway. Hee, this is interesting. The last time I left the mountain, I was cheated, and today I'm back in the secular world, I'm still cheated. The trick is still the same, do I look like a fool? Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. If he couldn't see through such an obvious trick, then he would really be an idiot. Besides, this trick was exactly the same as the one he encountered on the train when he left the mountain. The only difference was that Wang Xinyan had warned him, but now she was only on Sky Tier Island. How could Lin Yi fall for it? Obviously, from the acting skills of these two people, they should be professional swindlers. They saw the 10,000 yuan in Lin Yi's hand, so they set their eyes on Lin Yi and put on such a good show. These two people were probably very proud, secretly happy that they met a fool who was easy to fool, but in a while, they would know who the fool was. Lin Yi tossed the so-called 10th third place lottery ticket into the trash, and a stack of money appeared in his hand out of nowhere. Other than his own 10,000, he'd also taken the money from the two men he'd killed, adding it all up to a total of 30,000. He'd been worrying about not having enough money to spend before, but now he'd be able to last for a while. Just now, he felt that things were still the same, but people had changed, but after this experience, Lin Yi felt that the secular world really hadn't changed at all, it was still so good. He put away the 30,000 yuan. Lin Yi walked towards the busy street outside the alley. For him, the most important thing right now was to find a real estate agent to rent a house. Recovering his strength as soon as possible was the most important thing. However, before he could take 2 steps, 5 people suddenly squeezed into the alley. Lin Yi thought that the 2 men had sensed that something was wrong and came back to settle the score with him, but upon closer inspection, he found that it was not the 2 men at all, but 5 punks. The leader was a guy with dyed red hair. He brought a group of people with malicious intent to block the way. This alley was a dead end, and the only exit was blocked by them. Lin Yi couldn't escape even if he wanted to. Of course, this was just a group of hooligans, not the 2 Foundation establishment experts. He didn't need to run at all. Kid, I'm a little short on money recently. Can I borrow a few dollars from you to spend? Red Hair walked over in a carefree manner. Behind him, his 4 lackeys posed as if they were going to explode the heavens. They followed behind him, pretending to be cold and cool. Borrow money? Lin Yi raised his eyebrows with a smile that wasn't a smile. Yes, borrow money. It doesn't need to be much, just 10 or 20,000 yuan will do. As for how much you want to borrow, it depends on whether you know what's good for you. Red Hair had a cigarette in his mouth and blew out a smoke ring, thinking that he was cool. Then I'll have to ask clearly. Are you the only one who wants to borrow money, or do the 4 kings behind you want to borrow money as well? Lin Yi said indifferently. The 4 kings? Red Hair turned around and glanced at his underlings who were pretending to be cool. His face immediately darkened. Among the 4 idiots, one was holding an umbrella, one was holding a fruit knife, one was holding a guitar, and the most ridiculous one was holding a pet golden python. Weren't they the 4 heavenly kings? These 4 lackeys didn't even realize it, and after hearing Lin Yi's words, they posed even more enthusiastically. It seemed like they enjoyed the title of the 4 kings. Yeah, the 4 kings also want to borrow money. Kid, you can decide. Red Hair resisted the urge to turn around and beat them up. He looked at Lin Yi with a dark face. They're already the 4 kings, and they still need to borrow money? Lin Yi chuckled and shrugged. What a pity. I don't have a single cent on me. Why don't you search me? No money? Why did I see a stack of money in your hand on the street just now? Kid, we're giving you face by asking to borrow money from you. You should know what's good for you, understand? Red Hair said with an unfriendly expression. I did have money, but those two scammers scammed me. Now I don't have a single cent on me. Lin Yi shook his head. Red Hair still didn't believe him, but the king with the golden python behind him believed him. He came over and said, "Brother Red Hair, this kid might be telling the truth. I've seen those two before. They're scammers who specialize in scamming people in the countryside. Recently, they've come to the county. This kid might really be scammed by them. Why didn't you say so earlier?" Red Hair was furious. If he knew this was going to happen, he would have brought people to stop those two scammers. There was no risk at all, and he could earn a lot of money. "Brother Red Hair, you didn't ask me." The Golden Python King looked wronged. "Do I even need to ask about this? Will you die if you're smarter?" Red Hair really wanted to kick this stupid little brother to death. At this time, it was already too late for him to chase after the two swindlers. Since the two of them had succeeded, they would definitely disappear at the first moment to prevent this idiot in front of him from chasing after them. "Do you believe me now?" Lin Yi interrupted with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. Red Hair already believed him, but he became suspicious when he saw Lin Yi's expression. He pointed at the Golden Python King and said, "Go search him. Maybe he still has money on him." Ah! The Golden Python King was stunned. After being glared at by Red Hair, it walked over unwillingly and reached out to search Lin Yi's pocket. The next moment, its expression changed. It didn't dare to look at Lin Yi. It turned around and stammered, "No, no, no. Did you search carefully? If he still has money on him, he must have hidden it well. What's the use of randomly searching like this?" Red Hair scolded. "It's not that. I mean, he doesn't have any pockets." The Golden Python King was about to cry. Bullshit. Those two pockets of his aren't pockets. Red Hair wanted to kick him. But I can't touch him. He's empty." The Golden Python King didn't dare to stand next to Lin Yi anymore. It ran behind Red Hair and the others as if it had seen a ghost. Red Hair and the others didn't understand. They were stunned for a long time before scolding, "What a mess. Useless trash. You can't even do such a small thing. I'll do it myself." Chapter 50-17. How could this be? Red Hair didn't believe it and tried again, but it was still air. His expression immediately changed to that of the Golden Python Heavenly King. "How is it? I didn't lie to you, right?" Lin Yi asked calmly. His control over this primordial spirit had become very smooth. He could control it as he pleased. As long as he didn't want to, Red Hair and the others wouldn't be able to touch him even if they were beaten to death. "Big brother, are you a human or a ghost?" Red Hair gulped and asked carefully. "Why don't you guess?" Lin Yi purposely grinned sinisterly. It's broad daylight. "Big brother, are you really a ghost?" Red Hair was so scared that he was about to cry. He was just extorting, but he ended up extorting a ghost. Wasn't he courting death? "Brother Red Hair, I heard that a few people died in this alley before, and the Een energy is especially strong." The Golden Python Heavenly King said weakly. Originally, although Red Hair and the others had goosebumps, it was broad daylight after all, so they could at least hold on for a while. However, after hearing those words, they were so scared that they peed their pants. They cried out, "Oh my God," and ran away. However, before they could escape the alley, a shadow suddenly flashed in front of them. Then, they saw Lin Yi with his arms crossed and smiling at them. Red Hair and the others were instantly in a dilemma. This dead end was originally for them to block Lin Yi, but now it was the other way around. They were the ones who were stuck here. This turn of events was really unacceptable. Red Hair took the lead and knelt down with a thud. With a sobbing tone, he said, "Big brother, every debt has its debtor. We just wanted to borrow some money from you. We didn't kill you. If you want revenge, please don't look for us. you want me to let you guys go? Lin Yi glanced at the 5 of them indifferently. Yes, yes, yes. Big brother, you go your bridge of the dead, and I'll go my sunshine. We'll mind our own business. Red Hair and the others nodded their heads like they were pounding garlic. All right, as long as you do one thing, I'll let you go. Lin Yi smiled maliciously. He pointed at Red Hair and said, I hate people who dye their hair red the most. For heavenly kings, if you pluck out all of his hair, I'll be merciful and let you go. What? Redhead was dumbfounded when he heard this. The underlings of the 4 heavenly kings impatiently pounced forward. Compared to the tyrannical power of the boss, Lin Yi, the evil ghost, was much better. The red-haired man immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. The 4 heavenly kings, one after another, plucked his red hair clean. In the end, the red-haired man was plucked bald. He fainted on the spot from the pain and lost consciousness. Big brother ghost, what do you think? The 4 heavenly kings asked cautiously. It's much more pleasing to the eye. Lin Yi nodded and then asked, do you know where the nearest rental agency is? I know. It's just 2 blocks east of this street. Golden Python Heavenly King quickly said. Alright, you guys are quite sensible. I'll let you go this time. Remember this in the future. After Lin Yi finished speaking, he disappeared. The 4 heavenly kings looked at each other and suddenly sat on the ground. They had seen a ghost in broad daylight. They were so scared that they peed their pants. Even now, their pants were still wet. Why do you think this ghost is looking for a rental agency? The few of them looked at each other. Is there a need to ask? He's definitely looking for a house to harm people. Haven't you heard that a house in our county is haunted recently? I thought it was just a rumor, but now it seems like it's true. Golden Python Heavenly King said with certainty. Forget it. Let's go home quickly. This place is so creepy. I don't dare to stay here anymore. Before they could even catch their breath, the few of them quickly got up with lingering fear. They dragged the red-haired man like a dead dog and ran away. They wouldn't dare to come to this alley again. 2 blocks east of the street, Lin Yi really found a rental agency by the roadside. He stepped into the door and quickly picked a suite from the house provided by the agency. This suite was in a somewhat remote new district. There weren't many people in a small county. Such a district naturally didn't have a high occupancy rate. Moreover, more than half of the houses here belonged to those who had been relocated. Many of the houses were used for rent. If they couldn't be rented out, they would simply be left empty. The reason why Lin Yi chose this place was that it was remote. If it was in the downtown area with people coming and going, he wouldn't want it. He wanted to restore his strength in peace. Naturally, the fewer people, the better. The agent rode an electric bike and took Lin Yi to see the house. They rode for half an hour before they arrived. It was indeed very remote. The introduction said that it was a new city development zone, but when they arrived, it was simply in the suburbs. There wasn't even a proper road around, let alone a commercial street. Seeing Lin Yi's strange expression, the agent quickly said, although this place is remote, the environment is good. Look at the green mountains and clear water. How can the downtown area be so quiet? What we are pursuing now is the quality of life. Don't you think so? It's obviously a remote place, yet you can talk so much. Don't tell me you agents are all advertising professionals. Lin Yi smiled a little and said, let's not talk about it first. Let's take a look at the house first. Okay, please come with me. The agent was a little surprised by Lin Yi's words. He quickly took him to see the house. The suite was on the 5th floor. There was no elevator, so they could only climb. If it weren't for Lin Yi's teasing, the agent would probably say something like low carbon and healthy life. You go in and take a look. I won't go in. The agent suddenly stopped at the door. His expression was obviously a little unnatural. Lin Yi felt a little strange, but he didn't take it to heart. He walked in and looked at the room. There were 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. Whether it was the lighting or the layout, it was good. It could be seen that the decorations were carefully done. It didn't seem to be done casually. Except for the remote location, he was quite satisfied with everything else. After looking around a few rooms, Lin Yi walked to the door and said to the agent, "The house is not bad. How much is the monthly rent?" 500. I'll pay 1 for 1. The agent's offer was very straightforward. It seemed that he wanted to sign the contract as soon as possible and leave. He didn't even want to stay a moment longer. 500? Lin Yi was stunned. Such a suite in the suburbs of East Ocean City would cost at least 3,000 yuan. Although this small county was not as prosperous and developed as East Ocean City, Lin Yi estimated that it would cost at least 800 if not 1,000 yuan. 500 was a little too low. Could it be that he overestimated this small county? Chapter 50-18. 450. Lin Yi was even more surprised. There must be something wrong with this abnormality. If he still couldn't detect the problem, then he wouldn't be Lin Yi. He immediately said deliberately, "Are the houses here so cheap? Then I'll look at other houses." No, this suite is relatively cheap. "The other suites cost 800, said the agent quickly. "Why?" asked Lin Yi. Mainly because this house is special, so it's a little cheaper. I really can't find a more affordable house in other places." The agent looked around and said, "Special? What's special?" Lin Yi was a little surprised. He just walked around, and he didn't see any problems with the house. Could it be that the origin was not clean? The agent didn't want to say it, but seeing that Lin Yi insisted on asking, he had to say it in a hesitant manner. "I also heard it from someone. I heard that when this house was renovated, someone died in an accident. He was sawed into 2 pieces by a chainsaw. After that, it began to be haunted. The landlord didn't dare to live in it, so he could only rent it out. That's why the rent is so cheap." When the agent said this, he felt a chill. Even if he just stood at the door, he had goosebumps. He felt a chill inside. If it weren't to support his family, he would have run away long ago. However, Lin Yi didn't think much of it. He thought, if there are ghosts in this world, I'm a ghost now. What's there to be afraid of? Seeing that Lin Yi didn't speak, the agent took it for granted that he had failed this time, so he suggested, "How about this? I'll take you to see other houses. I guarantee that the conditions are not worse than this. Although the price is a little more expensive, it won't be too expensive. What do you think?" "No need. Let's do it here. Give me the key. I'll sign the contract now," Lin Yi said simply. "Ah." The agent was stunned for a moment. Then, he was overjoyed and hurriedly took out the contract and keys. He nodded and said, "Okay, you're really brave. But ghosts are just scaring yourself. Just don't think about them." Lin Yi chuckled, signed the money, took the key, and moved in on the spot. Anyway, the house had all kinds of furniture. In fact, it didn't matter even if there was nothing. Anyway, Lin Yi just wanted a place to meditate and cultivate. Everything else was fine. While meditating to recover his true qi, Lin Yi was thinking about his next step. What puzzled Lin Yi the most was, when did such an expert appear in the secular world? As soon as he was projected, he encountered a foundation establishment late stage and a foundation establishment middle stage. This was simply unimaginable in the past. Moreover, since there were foundation establishment experts now, would there be stronger ones, such as gold core experts? This level of strength wasn't much at all in Sky Class Island, but in the secular world, it was too terrifying. After all, the strongest he'd seen in the past was only Sky Class Full Mastery. These people were invincible. Lin Yi was most worried about Ling Shan and the others right now. If they were to go up against these sky-class masters, it would be hard to imagine what would happen to them. But when he wrote the letter last time, Ling Shan and the others didn't mention any sky-class masters appearing. Could it be that these people had just appeared, or had they always been here, but no one knew about them? But to say that these people were born and raised in the common world, Lin Yi didn't quite believe it. After all, the qi in the common world was too thin. Relying on their own training, reaching sky-class full mastery was already their limit. It was impossible for them to break through to foundation level, let alone late stage. Maybe even stronger. But if they weren't from the secular world, then where did these people come from? They couldn't be from sky-class island, could they? Lin Yi wouldn't have thought like this in the past, but with the Central Merchant Guild, it wasn't impossible. I hope they haven't started fighting yet. Lin Yi sighed worriedly, but he didn't plan on contacting Ling Shan and the others immediately. His priority was to recover his strength. Even if he couldn't get as strong as his main body, he couldn't be weaker than the two Foundation Establishment Masters. As for why he didn't contact Ling Shan and the others right now, the reason was simple. Lin Yi knew that once they received news of him, they'd come looking for him without a care in the world. Before he had enough confidence in dealing with the two Foundation Establishment Masters, Lin Yi didn't want to drag them down with him. After all, they weren't Foundation Establishment early stage, but a Foundation Establishment late stage and a Foundation Establishment mid stage. It didn't matter how many sky-class full mastery came. With such a difference in strength, numbers wouldn't be of any use. He'd have to wait until he had the same level of strength before he had the right to fight them. Of course, Lin Yi thought of another possibility. If there were sky-class masters in the secular world, then wouldn't Ling Shan and the others, who were already sky-class full mastery, break through as well? But as soon as the thought popped up, he rejected it. Ling Shan and the others didn't get their sky-class full mastery from their own training, but Lin Yi raised it all by himself. At least in the secular world, they wouldn't be able to break through. After thinking about it for a while, Lin Yi decided to let go of these thoughts. It was pointless to think about these things. Now that he was back, there was no need to rush. As long as he could recover his strength, everything would be fine. Sitting cross-legged, Lin Yi cultivated in his room for a day. When the sky turned dark outside, Lin Yi felt that his strength had increased quite a bit. From the beginning, he was at the late stage of sky class, but now, he was at the peak of the late stage. Although it wasn't worth mentioning compared to his main body's strength, he had only recovered for a day. The effect was already very good. Where did this ghost come from? Lin Yi stretched lazily as he mumbled. After listening to the agent's words, he was actually quite excited. For someone at his level, things like ghosts and monsters didn't pose any threat at all. He was just a little curious. Unfortunately, judging from the day's experience, the rumor of a haunted house was most likely a false rumor. After hearing it, they would just laugh it off as it was not credible. It was around 7 now, and the sky outside was completely dark. Lin Yi got up and was ready to go out and ask around. However, female cultivators were still women. Even if they were powerful, they could not change some of the habits of women. For example, they were afraid of insects and ghosts. However, this female cultivator was clearly an exception. Her words and actions were cold and overbearing, without the slightest hint of weakness. Looks like I have to find a chance to talk to this little cold girl. Lin Yi pinched his chin and muttered. He wasn't coveting her beauty. With his current situation of having so many female confidants, he didn't have any feelings for ordinary beauty. Even if she really was a heavenly beauty, he wouldn't be too stunned. The reason why he had this idea was because of the other party's strength. Such a master in the early stage of Foundation establishment suddenly appeared. If someone said that it had nothing to do with the two masters in the early stage of Foundation establishment, Lin Yi would never believe it. However, Lin Yi didn't plan to go up and ask immediately. This little cold girl didn't look easy to talk to. Moreover, she was injured now, so she must be especially wary of strangers. In this case, going up to ask this kind of thing was tantamount to asking for trouble. What's more, Lin Yi's strength was far from recovered. He was only at the peak of the late stage of Heaven's stage. Although it was not a problem to deal with an injured master in the early stage of Foundation establishment, it couldn't really intimidate the other party. The most important thing for Lin Yi now was to continue to recover his strength. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to fight with people head-on. So if he wanted to ask, there must be a suitable opportunity. Otherwise, if he forced it, it would only be counterproductive. When there was no movement at the opposite door, Lin Yi pushed the door open and went to the small store downstairs to ask someone. In the end, he found out that there were no night food stalls nearby. He could only go downtown. Fortunately, Lin Yi's speed was very fast. It would take people half an hour to ride an electric bike, but he arrived in less than 5 minutes. This was including the time he took to ask for directions, otherwise, he would be faster than this. As expected, the night food stalls were really noisy. All kinds of people gathered in this place, drinking beer and eating barbecue. At the same time, they bragged a little to vent. If one had the heart to listen, as long as he stayed here for 2 hours, he would definitely know everything. He didn't even have to take the initiative to talk to people. He just sat there and ate something, and he knew everything he needed to know. Lin Yi didn't even have to take the initiative to talk to people. He just had to sit there and eat something, and he knew everything he needed to know. The first thing that could be confirmed was that the secular world was not in chaos. At least on the surface, there was no chaos in the social order. Chapter 50-20. However, inquiring about these things was just a precaution. Before his strength recovered to a certain extent, Lin Yi would not leave Shima City for the time being. After staying at the food stall for 2 hours, it was nearly 10 o'clock when Lin Yi returned to the community. This place was deserted during the day, and it was even quieter at night. Looking around the entire community, there were only a few rooms with lights on. People who were timid would probably not dare to walk at night. Who knew if it was really haunted? In a crowded place like the downtown area, being haunted was just a joke. But in a dark and quiet environment like this, once such a thought popped up, even the most courageous person would have goosebumps. However, Lin Yi did not care. Not to mention that he did not believe that there were ghosts in this world, even if there were, in his eyes, it was just a kind of spirit. Wasn't he himself now? If he really encountered it, it was uncertain who would be the scariest one. Climbing up the dark stairs to the 5th floor, Lin Yi subconsciously glanced at the opposite door. If he could have a chance encounter with the cold girl, as neighbors, he might be able to get a few words out of her. Unfortunately, the other party must be in seclusion to heal at this time. It was estimated that there would be no chance for a while. Of course, the premise must be a chance encounter. Lin Yi certainly would not take the initiative to knock on the door. Although he could also use the identity of neighbors to strike up a conversation, he estimated that with the cold girl's style, if she was unhappy, she might kill him. That would be counterproductive. Taking out the key, Lin Yi was about to open his door. At this time, the opposite door suddenly opened. The tall woman stood quietly in the room, looking up and down at Lin Yi coldly. Lin Yi jumped in fright. What was wrong with this cold girl, doing something like this in the middle of the night? He was the only one who was brave enough to do something like this in the middle of the night. A normal person would have had a heart attack if they'd been thinking about ghosts. This cold girl wouldn't be lying at the door staring at me, would she? The two of them looked at each other, and no one spoke. After a moment, the tall woman asked, "I heard that your house is haunted?" Huh? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He shook his head and said, "It should be a rumor. Anyway, I don't feel anything wrong." "Did it affect you?" "No." The tall woman replied and closed the door without saying anything else. Lin Yi was left standing at the door, confused. He shook his head and laughed. Then, he opened the door and entered his room. Lin Yi was quite surprised by the cold girl's sudden appearance, but he was not afraid that she would see through his problem. Once his spirit body solidified, not only would ordinary people not be able to detect it, even ordinary cultivators would not be able to see through it. Unless it was someone like Sun Bai Mei who had a special cultivation technique, there was no need to worry about exposing his identity under normal circumstances. At that moment, two people suddenly appeared at the entrance of the residential area. To Lin Yi, they were two familiar faces. One was an old vegetable seller, and the other had a crew cut. They were the two swindlers who had cheated him of his money during the day. What the fuck? The money was clearly in my pocket. Why is it gone? The crew cut cursed. Could it be that you have offended some expert again? You want them to search us clean of all our money without us knowing, right? I told you long ago that we must not be ostentatious in this line of work. You brat, once you have some money, you go to the nightclub to wash your hair. There are all sorts of places like that. No matter who you offend, it will be troublesome. Now, even I am unlucky. The old man scolded. Master, I have said it a few thousand times. I only go to those nightclubs to take advantage of them. I don't do anything else. How would I offend anyone? It can't be that you didn't keep your eyes open. Did you deceive someone you shouldn't have? The crew cut complained. Bullshit. I have been in this line of work for decades. How can I be wrong? It must be you who caused trouble. You don't even know that you have offended someone. You can't be reliable without any hair on your mouth. You should be more careful. The old man continued to scold. Okay. It's all my fault. If I find out which bastard is doing such a wicked thing, I will deceive him. The crew cut said angrily. Just because of what you said, you will suffer in the future. You have no memory at all. The old man patted the crew cut and paused. Fortunately, there is still this job tonight. I won't be empty-handed. TSK, this doesn't cost much. It's boring. The crew cut complained. The scam during the day was 10,000 as long as it was successful. But now, this kind of work only cost 300 or 200. He was not willing to earn this little money. You are thinking of something good. Do you think it is so easy to succeed in the day? It is good enough to catch one in a month. If you don't earn this little money at other times, are you waiting to starve? The old man scolded. Yes. Rice has to be eaten bite by bite, and the road has to be walked step by step. Is this okay? It is obviously a scam, but it is so rustic. Those who don't know would think that they are migrant workers. The crew cut shrank his neck helplessly. If it's not rustic, how can it be a scam? Do you really think it is as high-tech as those movies you watch? Only a fool would believe that. The old man kicked him and urged, hurry up, don't delay things. After finishing this job, we still have to do some scouting tomorrow. While the two of them were talking, they walked into a house one after another. They went straight up to the 5th floor and stopped in front of Lin Yi's room. The two of them exchanged glances. The old man then began to paste black paper on his face. In addition to his black clothes, the surrounding light was very dim. His entire person suddenly became a dark mass. He stood in the shadow of the corner. If one didn't pay attention, they really wouldn't notice him. If they did notice him, it would be even worse. If they met such a thing in the middle of the night, they would be scared out of their wits. The crew cut wore a low-quality wig and a wide white robe. At the same time, he patted white foundation on his face and smeared a few streaks of tomato juice on it. At first glance, it looked like blood. When he made a face, it was scarier than the old man. Everything was ready. The old man took out the key and quietly opened the door. The two of them slipped in. When they saw that there was no one in the living room, they looked at each other and slipped into the bedroom. Neither of them made any footsteps, and the way they walked was extremely creepy. At first glance, it looked like they were floating. It really looked like they were haunted. Chapter 50-21. What are you doing? The old man did not see clearly what was going on inside. He slapped Crew Cut's head and scolded silently. Crew Cut still had a horrified expression on his face. He turned his head and pointed into the room, indicating for the old man to take a look himself. Anyway, he did not dare to take a step forward even if he was beaten to death. It's so noisy. The old man scolded silently. He plucked up his courage and poked his head into the room. He only took a glance before retracting his head. If not for the black paper on his face, he would have been even paler than Crew Cut. Did you see it clearly? Is that thing inside a human or not? Crew Cut mouthed. Nonsense. Of course it's a human. But this person is sick. He's not sleeping in the middle of the night. He's actually meditating on the bed. I've been in the pugilistic world for decades, but I was almost scared to death by him. The old man patted his chest with lingering fear. Fuck me. How dare he scare me by meditating? I'm going to scare him into a mental illness today. Crew Cut spat hatefully. He immediately crept in, ready to give Lin Yi a good scare. In the end, he retreated after taking 2 steps. He pouted at the old man with a strange expression. Something's wrong today. What's wrong? I asked you to do something, but you're making excuses. The old man scolded. Under Crew Cut's desperate gesture, he took a look inside and was instantly stunned. It's actually that kid from the day. How can there be such a coincidence in the world? What should we do? Crew Cut asked. What do you mean? We'll just scare him. He can't recognize us anyway. We're wearing makeup. What's there to be afraid of? After saying that, the old man pushed up his Crew Cut and urged, don't dilly-dally. Hurry up, you go first. Why is it me again? The Crew Cut grumbled, but he still pretended to be a malicious spirit and floated in. After all, it was a lie once, a lie twice. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame his own bad luck. He had to run into the muzzle of the gun every time. However, this time, after taking 2 steps, Crew Cut immediately turned around and ran back as if he had seen a ghost. His face was even paler than before. He was so frightened that he could not say a word for a long time. What now? Are you done or not? The old man impatiently gave him a slap. No. No more. The Crew Cut guy said with a sobbing tone. What's gone? The old man was stunned. They're gone. The Crew Cut dragged the old man into the room. The next moment, even the old man's expression turned into one of shock. He had clearly seen that person meditating on the bed just now. Why was he nowhere to be seen now? If it was said that the room was large or had a lot of furniture, then it could be explained. Most likely, the person heard their movements and hid. However, the problem was that the room was not large at all, and there was only a bed and a table inside. There was nothing else. With a casual glance, they could clearly see the situation in the room, and there was no place to hide. The problem was that this was horrifying. In just a moment, a living person was gone. Did that kid jump out of the window and escape? The Crew Cut thought for a moment. The 2 of them were guarding the door, and it was impossible for that person to slip out under their watch. The only possibility was to jump out of the window. This is the 5th floor. Who the hell would jump out of the window for no reason? Look at it yourself. The window was clearly locked from the inside. It was never opened. The old man shook his head repeatedly. Then what's going on? Did my eyes deceive me just now? The Crew Cut guy was puzzled. If your eyes deceive me, so do mine. Is that even possible? The old man curled his lips in annoyance. He braced himself and looked inside again. After confirming that there was nothing, his expression began to become solemn. Could it be that there's really something wrong with this house? Maybe there's really something unclean. Fuck. Master, don't scare me. Boss Huang made up stories about people being killed by chainsaws. It's not real. Besides, he's done it so many times in the past, and there have been no accidents. The crew cut guy was shocked. It's hard to avoid meeting ghosts when walking at night. This old saying is not made up randomly. Maybe there really is such a thing. That Boss Huang is not a good person to begin with. What if someone really died in his house? The old man carefully looked around. He had always been bold, but today, he was really a little scared. Then what should we do? The crew cut guy was already very scared. After hearing what the old man said, his heart suddenly trembled even more. He tightly leaned against the old man, not even daring to look around. What else can we do? Let's hurry up and leave. There's a human way and a ghost way. Even if there's really something unclean, as long as we don't provoke it, it shouldn't take the initiative to provoke us. Let's go. The old man did not dare to stay for a moment longer. He walked out before he finished speaking. At first, he was able to slow down a little, but then he walked faster and faster. Soon, it turned into a reckless escape. Wait. Wait for me. The crew cut guy hurriedly ran after him. Things like haunting were not something that one should think about at all. Once the thought really popped up, it would quickly occupy his entire mind. It was already good enough for the two of them to turn around and run. If they could even be scared to death by themselves, it would be a really unjust death. The two of them ran to the door like crazy. However, before the old man opened the door, the crew cut guy subconsciously glanced at the bathroom next to him. As a result, he almost fainted on the spot. When the two of them first opened the door, the washroom next to them was closed. But now, there was a crack in the door. What was even more frightening was what they saw through the crack. They could vaguely see a figure inside the washroom. Oh my God. The crew cut guy was so scared that his soul almost jumped out of his body. He grabbed the old man and used him as a shield. The old man was originally hurriedly opening the door, but he was caught off guard and lost his footing. He was directly thrown into the bathroom, and the scene inside could finally be seen clearly. A figure floated in the air like a ghost. It was Lin Yi who had disappeared into thin air in the room just now. At this moment, his body gave off a vague feeling, not like a normal person at all. At this moment, he was floating silently in the bathroom, looking at the two of them with a blank expression. The crew cut guy was scared out of his wits. He opened the door hysterically and staggered to escape. In contrast, the old man looked calmer. After being thrown into the bathroom, he did not dare to look behind him. He followed closely behind the crew cut guy and scrambled to escape. However, as soon as he reached the stairs, there was nothing under his feet. He rolled down the stairs with the crew cut guy. Chapter 50-22. To him, this was just a small episode. Since these two scammers were pretending to be ghosts to scare people, they should be prepared to be scared by ghosts. The two of them were just pretending to be ghosts, but Lin Yi was a real ghost. He could scare people to death. The old man and crew cut rolled from the 5th floor to the 4th floor. As soon as they got up, they heard the sound of Lin Yi closing the door. They were scared out of their wits and rolled from the 4th floor to the 3rd floor. It had to be said that the two of them had pretty good physiques. After rolling for 2 floors, they were still able to climb back up. They limped down the stairs with all their might until they reached the entrance of the district where there was plenty of light. Only then did they stagger to a stop and sit on the ground in a sorry state. Master, we are really lucky to be able to escape this time. I will never come to this place again, no matter how much money you give me, crew cut said while panting. Let's go back to the countryside. We will never come to Shima City again. It's too dangerous to go to another place. The old man was also scared. Yes, yes, yes. We will never come to Shima City again. Krukut nodded. He panted and suddenly asked, Master, was that a ghost? Of course, if it wasn't a ghost, who else could it be? The old man was convinced. But what did we encounter during the day? It can't be a ghost in broad daylight, right? Krukut said while shrinking his neck. Who knows what a ghost is? Maybe it can come out to harm people in broad daylight? The old man curled his lips and replied. Suddenly, he was shocked. Our money disappeared inexplicably. The problem should be with this ghost. Is it going to pester us? Fuck. Master, don't scare me. Krukut did not even have time to catch his breath. He was so scared that he jumped again. Let's go. We can't stay here for another minute. Let's go and find a Taoist for help. Otherwise, if it really pesters us, neither of us will live. The more the old man thought about it, the more scared he became. He ignored the pain in his body and got up to leave. But what about Boss Huang? Krukut quickly caught up and asked. Who cares what he does? If he has the ability, then subdue this ghost and let him have a headache on his own. The old man scolded angrily. The Boss Huang they were talking about was a small boss in this area. He was also the landlord of Lin Yi's suite. He was a lazy person who ate and ate all day long. On a whim, he came up with an ultimate trick to deceive people, which was to pretend to be a ghost. Although these tenants didn't pay much rent, they couldn't afford to run away one after another. He could earn tens of thousands of yuan a month with this suite. What business could be easier than this in the world? However, if he wanted to scare people away as soon as possible, it would not be enough to just rely on a haunted rumor. It had to be haunted from time to time, so Boss Huang hired these two liars. In the past 6 months, this small business of pretending to be ghosts had been flourishing. Although the amount of money they made from swindling each time was not much, it was still 1,000 or so at a time. It was not a small amount when added together. Why haven't they called yet? Boss Huang had been waiting for the call since early in the morning. It was something he had agreed to do with the two liars. As long as the tenants were scared away, he would immediately transfer the money to the two liars. The two liars had always been very proactive. It was already noon today, but there was still no response. In the end, Boss Huang could not wait any longer. He took the initiative to call the two liars, but both of their phones were switched off. I knew these two liars wouldn't be reliable. Motherfucker, they must have gotten rich somewhere and are looking down on this small business of 200 to 300 yuan, huh? Those two bastards. Boss Huang finally reacted to the situation. He started to call the two liars again while cursing. There were a lot of liars these days. Even if the two bastards did not want to do this business, there would be plenty of people fighting for it. After scaring the two liars away, Lin Yi cultivated for the whole night. He only went out when it was almost noon. Shima City was not a big place, so he planned to spend some time looking around. He wanted to see if he could find any other Heaven Road realm experts other than the cold girl who lived across from him, especially the two that he had fought with. Although it was a little risky, he still had to investigate his surroundings. Besides, as long as he was not too close to Bai Mei's son, he should be fine as long as he was careful. As soon as Lin Yi walked out of his room, the door across from him opened. The tall woman glanced at Lin Yi and suddenly said, "Was there a ghost last night?" She lived next door and was an early-stage foundation establishment realm expert. It would be strange if she did not know about the big commotion the two liars made last night. After all, she was only injured and not in a coma. "No, there were two pretending to be ghosts, but I scared them away," said Lin Yi honestly. The tall woman nodded and did not say anything else. She turned around and went downstairs. Lin Yi also followed her downstairs. It had to be said that although this cold girl was cold and distant, her temperament was really good. Coupled with her tall and slender figure, her back was pleasing to the eye. However, Lin Yi was just appreciating it. He was not a person who could not move his legs when he saw a beautiful woman. Moreover, there were so many beautiful women around him, so he had a very high immunity to beautiful women. Even if she was pleasing to the eye, he was just looking at her. The two of them walked in silence until they reached the entrance of the community. Then they parted ways. Lin Yi went to Shima City, while the tall woman went in the opposite direction. Lin Yi could not help but be a little surprised. Where was this cold girl going? Was she going to the countryside? But even though he was confused, Lin Yi did not ask. He walked around Shima City and bought a phone charger at the same time. There was a solar charger in the jade space, but it was not very useful in the house. Other than that, Lin Yi also bought a SIM card. His old card had been out of service for a long time, and it had probably been cancelled by now. If he wanted to contact Ling Shan and the others in the future, he would have to get a new SIM card. After all, he couldn't just use a public phone. Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the brand new phone in his hand. This was a gift from him when he bought the SIM card and charged a few hundred kuai. The quality, of course, wasn't very good. It was the cheapest Android phone on the market, but even so, it was enough for Lin Yi to study it for a while. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.